$30 conversation. What is Boomer Book, Kamui? Do you know?
I have no idea what that is.
The podcast where we
that makes sense.
This podcast is
never heard of that before, though, to be honest.
But it makes Dimension. From screenwriter's perspective and trippy. And sometimes,
anyway,
from enter channel name.
But anyway,
we host
topics.
episodes every Monday.
Hello, can you hear us?
So join us
You're live on your
ask us our hot
but like, are you listening to us at the same time?
Of all things.
Yeah, I am.
And
I've
stay
been
tuned
okay,
for
perfect.
our silly antics.
Okay.
This, community
And of course, subscribe for
Okay,
more
that's
debate
fine.
lord
Guys, we
Oodie
have a guest.
proving
He's speaking
why.
at the same time as us. His name is Mello. You probably know who he is. Say hi.
What's up? What's up? Howdy. Hello. Konnichiwa.
Yep. All right.
Konnichiwa.
Yeah, so today we're talking about a lot of Naruto versus Boruto things. Specifically, I guess we're going to start with adult versus teen Naruto. Is that the game plan, Oodie?
Not gonna lie, the game. Okay, so off the fly,
There is no game plan.
I first wanted to explain the nuance of what Konnichiwa, even how it operates. Okay, so this is interesting, right? Because it's obviously Japanese. Konnichi is hello. So wa is the topic marker. This is really interesting because topic marker, it's like a particle in Japanese. You know, like they got direct objects and indirect objects in English and like parentheses and all the other nonsensical things. So wa is one of the things. It's a topic marker. If you know anything about English grammar, you know what that is. So how it operates in Japanese is, again, because it's marking the topic. So it's like saying, it's like, I'll just say a sentence in English, like dog wa in the house. So it's like, about the dog, it is in the house. So it's not so in this case, it's almost like saying about hello rather than just saying hello. Or hello is a thing that I am saying, is basically what that wa operates as.
Okay.
I know Spanish does a lot of stuff like that too, though, where like if you take the literal translation, it doesn't really make sense in a way, but like that's just how they say it.
Yeah, but this is interesting because again, Konnichi is the word. It's not Konnichiwa. It's Konnichi. That's interesting.
Konnichi.
Exactly,
Wow.
Yeah. All right.
Maybe they're answering the question. The proper question after would have been why, but they're just saying it for them. Like, you're going to ask this, so I might as well ask for you.
But if it's a question, you would add ka at the end. So if you're saying like hello question mark, it'd be like Konnichi ka. You could just like shout that in a forest if you're alone. Be like, hey, Konnichi ka, anyone there?
Is that really what you would do?
No.
How would you, if you're going to ask hello as a question, how would that work?
You
don't
ask hello as a question.
You could.
Hello?
Like,
You would just be like, is anyone there? Like, I don't think you can ask hello as a question in Japanese.
well, why not start?
Yeah, you just say Konnichi ka. There you go.
Yeah.
Gonna confuse people if you ever go to Japan and say that.
Yeah, I'm gonna just say it. Be like, what do you mean? Be like, hello? Like, do you mean like konnichiwa? With the word be, and you'd be like, no, I mean konnichi ka. Certified
like,
Japanese.
Especially if you like
type that in
pretend to
Google
be
Translate,
confident
does it
about
get
it.
anything?
Konnichi ka, it's gonna be something dumb because it's Google Translate, which is infamous for not working anyways. Let me try. Konnichi
All the more
ka.
reason to try.
Okay, so Konnichi ka is now one. I promise it's not, but apparently it is.
Google Translate says it is.
So side tangents of Japanese aside, Naruto versus Boruto. Did Boruto ruin Naruto? Is Boruto even good? Question mark. Craziness, and then power scaling, and then the other ways we could compare Boruto and Naruto, and even contrast if we feeling spicy with it.
You know, that's
What
actually.
do you guys think?
I say that's actually interesting because you know how many times I'm sure all of us get these similar comments where it'll be like, like real Naruto fans could never watch Boruto, or as a Naruto fan, Boruto like ruins Naruto for me. Some variation of that comment. I see it all the time, and every time I respond, I say I mean, that's one way to look at it, but for me at least, I'm like, it doesn't matter how bad Boruto is, because I'm so much of a Naruto fan, I automatically like it. That's basically how I am with it. I'm like, that's
What's
true. I'm like,
interesting
I mean,
to
that's
me-
one way. Because to me, I'm like, it doesn't matter. Because it's in that universe, I just like it by default at this point. I'll complain if something's bad, but I still will like it.
The inverse of what you're saying exists. There's actually like a pretty big, I don't want to say big, but like there's a sizable community of Boruto fans who are only Boruto fans and who haven't even seen Naruto. And that's really interesting to me. Just the fact that you can watch Boruto by itself, but like obviously if you watch Naruto, you get all of everything that you could ever appreciate from Boruto. But it's really interesting how you can just be a fan of Boruto without having even seen Naruto.
It's kind of surprising. There's more of those than you would think.
Yeah, I've actually talked to people that haven't seen Naruto but enjoy Boruto. It's kind of weird to me, but
it feels weird because I'm my honest. I'm kind of like, you should really just watch Naruto.
Well, some people
really
don't like
So Mello,
animation. It's weird.
Mello, I want you to do this out of order on purpose. First, give us your opinion on this, and then after that, second, then introduce yourself, because that's the funnier way to do it.
Okay. I mean, look, just based on how things have been happening, I think I don't have a choice in the matter. My opinion on this, I think it's odd, but also not surprising. When Dragon Ball Z first dropped, I saw that, and I never saw Dragon Ball until my aunt said, "Hey, yeah, there's a version of this before that." I was like, "Oh crap!" So, I have like a very connected thing, so I kind of understand it. I kind of get it. It makes sense to me. And hi, my name is Mello. I was gonna make an alcoholic joke, but that's not funny. Hi, my name is Mello. What's up? Thank you for inviting me on the Walky Talky podcast. I'm happy to be here. Hello. Yeah.
Are you walking while you talking?
Yeah. We went the same way with that.
Well, my chair is very high up, so my feet are dangling. So if the dangling mimics walking, then sure. Yeah, there you go.
Yes, I want
only if you dangle
back
back and forth.
Your legs in a bicycle motion, so you're like at least the entire podcast.
Yeah, so
You'll be like
technically,
panting randomly from being so exerted of energy.
It's like, bro, you sitting down. What's going on? Yeah.
In fairness, I'm currently eating some way too hot oatmeal before I go back to walking.
What kind of oatmeal?
Did you say a hot meal or hot oatmeal?
It's way too hot oatmeal. As in, it's like burning my mouth off. It's apple and cinnamon flavored.
Okay, very nice.
And yes, Oodie, just for you. It's also, I was trying the protein kind, the one that's higher. It's normally the way I just make it is higher in protein, but I thought, hey, just for the convenience of it, I'll just try the one that's already high in protein. It's not bad at all. Tastes exactly like the regular flavored oatmeal packets. It just is higher in protein.
Yeah, and you slice some almonds in there, even add some blueberries or cranberries. It's delicious. But yeah, so sticking on topic, somewhat related, hopefully. Speaking, guys, speaking of oatmeal, let's get back to Naruto. So what's most interesting to me with like the Dragon Ball analogy that Mello was saying is the fact that not only can you watch Boruto without having seen Naruto, but if you have seen Naruto, in a way, it could arguably taint your experience. Like this might be a reason that Naruto fans aren't a fan of Boruto, because like if they never watched Naruto, maybe they would have been a fan of Boruto. So not in the fact that it ruins Naruto, but in the fact that the two series are like thematically so different. Even the art style, the music, everything is just so different that if you're a fan of one thing, it's almost like peanut butter and jelly, because it's so different. You won't like it when you're trying to find the similarities. Like, oh, I want to watch Boruto for Naruto. Well, if Naruto's not in it as much, you're automatically not going to like it because it's not Naruto. It's its own series, which is almost really interesting to me.
Yeah, there's, like I said, there's two ways you can. I mean, that's one half of it. The other half is like me, where it's just like, because it literally is the Naruto verse and Naruto and those characters are there. I like it no matter what. It doesn't matter if it's god awful. I will still watch it.
That
Like,
was one of the
there's
reasons
two
why I
sides to this.
started watching it, was just to see the old characters. But then I started kind of liking the new characters as well. So
Yeah, I like both. Like, but yeah, I mean, the whole reason I watched it is because I randomly found out there was a sequel of Naruto, and I was like, oh, well, I better watch that.
But yeah, I
And
think
here we are.
Yeah, no, I think I would maybe agree with that. I do think people watching Naruto first and then coming to Boruto, it can kind of sour them on the Boruto series. So yeah, no, I think in the absence of the Naruto series, the Boruto series is elevated more, obviously. But I think maybe they should have. Your first impression is your best impression, so I feel like they could have put their best foot forwards, and I don't think that's what they really did. I think there maybe has some conflicts of interest, trying to appeal to a younger demographic and an older one at the same time. Kind of like the old saying, a jack of all trades and a master of none. They should have put all their skill points in one particular area, I think, or at least the majority of them. I think that probably would have bore out a little bit better. But man, we got what we got, so I kind of move forwards.
I agree, because the thing is, like, they were trying to hit a younger audience. That was a big point. They wanted to hit a younger audience, and because of that, most of the Naruto audience was older at this point. They grew up watching it. So, I mean, that's part of the reason why a lot of people hate it, especially early Boruto, because it wasn't made for them. That's just the reality. It was made for the people that have never seen either. And that's how fans that have never seen either exist, because that's literally what they were trying to do. They wanted to create those people.
What's interesting with that is, as we all know, Boruto was like especially hated early on, especially in the West, but like over in the East, they actually completely, like, overwhelmingly succeeded, at least with the Boruto anime. They did get that younger audience, and it became one of the most popular TV shows, like, week to week, which is really interesting. They completely nailed the market that they wanted. But again, this is like starting Boruto, so several years later, this company realizes that these younger fans are growing up with Boruto. So they are, I think, in my opinion, they are maturing the series as time goes on, just to keep those younger fans that are now older.
So they're kind of doing what Naruto did.
Yeah. They just kind of started over. They knew that, they knew that, you know, they're going to have half the fans that are like me. They just follow it. It's a Naruto sequel. They're going to like it. And then there's the other half that's going to be like, oh, I don't like this. It's too different. And it took away from what I did like, blah, blah, blah. And it's just how it is. But the goal was to create enough new fans that it doesn't matter.
But at least
also,
the series...
I'm going to be honest, though. I just do not agree with the take that, sorry to interrupt, that, like, Boruto makes Naruto... Like, the people that think that Boruto, no matter how good or bad it is, I just don't understand how it can make you think Naruto is now better or worse. I'm like... The original is the same as it was. It doesn't matter how bad the sequel. If anything, I would say that a super duper bad sequel would make you love the original more. Or an insanely good sequel would make you think the prequel wasn't as good as you thought originally. That's the only way I can see it working. I don't see on any planet how a really bad sequel makes you think the original is worse. If anything, it's going to make me think it's better. For example, the Star Wars sequels, I don't really like them. They don't make me think the prequels or the originals are worse now. If anything, it makes me appreciate them more because of how bad the sequel was. Like, I don't understand the take.
I think that's what happened for a lot of people with the prequels. Like, they genuinely just started appreciating them more because how bad the sequels were.
Yeah, I like the prequels personally. I actually like the prequels more than the originals.
I like the prequels as well.
Yeah, especially like I said, Revenge of the Sith. That's the best.
I think the prequels are pretty peak, I must admit. Huge Star Wars fan. Ahsoka Tano, waiting for that show. But I think if you believe that it can influence Boruto, that is, can influence the prior series Naruto in a positive way, I think maybe it can influence it in a negative way as well. Like for me, I'll give you like kind of like an example. I was really excited for Boruto because I was excited to see Naruto at the peak of his powers, at his apex, right? And I guess we got that technically, but it wasn't really what I imagined it to be. I wanted it to be a little bit more grandiose, but it wasn't. So I think maybe that, expectations. But like Oodie said, if you go into Boruto absent of Naruto, you don't have those expectations. So it just elevates Boruto probably.
So Mello, what I think the reason that you don't like it as much is the same reason that everyone else doesn't, for like the same reason that some people hate later Naruto or early Naruto because of later Naruto. For example, people that don't watch the series after the fact, they only watch it once and they're thinking back in retrospective. The biggest thing that comes to my mind is Naruto versus Neji. It's all about fate. Naruto versus Neji in part 1, thematically, it has nothing to do with later on. It's its own self-contained little arc, basically. It's a great story. You can go back and you can rewatch it. But because of the whole fate thing later on with like Hagoromo, Indra and Ashura, how Naruto is technically born for success, some people do think it ruins it. I don't think it ruins it at all because, again, it's only influence outside of the bounds of the actual arc itself. But if you go back to rewatch that arc, it works completely fine by itself.
I also just think there's a misunderstanding with that whole thing. Like, just because Neji thought Naruto wasn't destined to be strong doesn't mean Naruto wasn't destined to be strong. This is what Neji thought. Like, and the point with the Hagoromo stuff, the whole cycle of hatred thing, Indra and Ashura shit, the fate between the two brothers wasn't that Ashura was always going to be weak, because no, he was going to be strong. He literally beats Indra every single time. Ashura wins. So Naruto was never destined to be weak. That's not the fate that he broke. That's just what Neji just thought he was destined to be weak. Neji was wrong about that. It doesn't matter. And
I completely
as far as
agree.
the whole continuing the Indra versus Ashura thing, they ended it. So they did change that fate.
Yeah.
So Neji, it doesn't mean that Neji was right. That's just a misunderstanding.
It's
the reason I go ahead.
Oh no, hit me up.
Okay, well, the reason I use that example is because that's like one of the most infamous ones. I would consider it, again, because these people have only seen Naruto once. They almost want to hate the series, looking back in retrospective, in my opinion. But I'm giving it from their perspective, which is just like the wrong perspective because they're misinformed anyways. So it's like the same people that say Rock Lee was a wasted character. The whole tuning exams was hard work versus talent. Well, no, it wasn't. That's not.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not anyway.
It's just Rock Lee. It's
Exactly.
only Rock Lee's thing.
Yeah. I think. Do you think Neji was actually wrong, or was he just wrong about Naruto?
What did he think Naruto's fate was? Because Naruto proved Neji wrong in that arc.
Well, what I mean by that is I think maybe the overall concept of what he was talking about was correct, but he was just wrong specifically about who he was targeting it towards, which would be Naruto. Like, he thought Naruto was a loser and he'll never become Hokage, right? But Naruto was destined to be more than that. So, in that sense, Neji was correct. He was just incorrect about Naruto specifically. What do you
So this is what I would say.
I disagree.
I think,
go ahead.
I was going to say, the point wasn't that destinies don't exist. The point was you can change what the destiny was. That's what Naruto is. Because Naruto, it's almost a choice. Naruto could have accepted the destiny, which was to kill Sasuke or just not save him. But he insisted on not doing that. Naruto could have accepted that nobody liked him and stopped trying to make people like him, guard it, and just start killing him. He could have done that. But he chose to change his destiny. So I think the point isn't, Neji isn't fully wrong, that people have destinies. But the point was he thought that you could not change it no matter what. There was nothing you could do about it. But nobody ever said Naruto's destiny was to break the cycle of hatred. His destiny was to keep doing it in that regard.
Yes.
So
thematically
is a little bit different. Like the one where he's supposed to, and even then, that one had two options. He could either bring about destruction or peace. He never said which one Naruto was going to do. He just said it's going to be one or the other. And Naruto, he chose the path he was going to go with the good one. So I think that's just the point. It's not necessarily that destiny. Yeah. Neji thought destiny couldn't be changed. Yeah, that's where he was wrong. But not that people have destinies in general.
I think I would say, because maybe we're thinking about maybe time, because I think destiny is entwined with time itself, right? I think we would agree with that. For me, I think everything that you do now is predetermined, right? The now, the future, it already exists. We're both alive, currently living, as you would define currently, and then also dead at the same time. And even if you make choices in the present, those choices are already predetermined. So for me, I think there is no Naruto changing anything, because what he did, he was always meant to do. There is no deviation from anything. With one caveat, and this is the only thing I think when it comes to changing destiny, and this gets into the Boruto stuff where they kind of mention this outright or like allude to this. Toneri on the Moon, I think in the end credits of episode 34 in the anime, Boruto with destiny as your enemy, how will you combat this? Almost implying he needs to fight against his fate or his destiny, and that there's a method in which to do this, or potentially. And then on omnipotence, the casting of that where Momoshiki saw something and then it was changed. So it seems like the mechanics of changing futures exists, but outside of that, I think everything that you do, is already predetermined.
So, in my opinion, unless so if this really determines on next chapter, if next chapter is a time skip, then Momoshiki was just
I'm
wrong.
with you on that one.
So,
This is going to make
so if Momoshiki was wrong, what's saying Toneri isn't wrong? Who's to say destiny even like canonically exists within the Naruto Boruto universe?
What do you mean by what do you mean by the next chapter would prove him wrong, depending on what it does?
It makes so if let's just like basically there's two options. If the time skip which is 3 years from now, we don't get, for example, there was a Kawaki panel from Boruto's flash forward vision that hasn't happened yet. If hypothetically Momoshiki is just wrong, that scene doesn't happen, it's a changed future type of thing, that's drastically different than if the story continues for a couple more chapters and we actually get that scene and Momoshiki's just freaking out early.
Are we talking about the same Momoshiki foresight? I think we might be talking about something different.
Yeah, we're talking about his prophecy. He thinks his prophecy is happening right now. He thinks Boruto is supposed to despair right now because he seemingly saw it in the future. But if he's just wrong, he doesn't despair, and then we get like the 3-year time skip, then he was just wrong. He didn't despair right now like Momoshiki said he was going to. It's not that Momoshiki said he thinks he will. It's that Momoshiki said he absolutely will. And we didn't get a Jogan. We didn't get any reason that the fate should be different or that destiny did change. It's just apparently it did, or just Momoshiki was wrong.
Yeah, so for me,
versus if it like just happens later and he's wrong about when it happened. Like he assumed it happened now, but it could be the case where it's actually just going to happen later, and he's just mad without realizing that it's fine. Like there's different ways this could all happen depending on whether they just jump 3 years in the future.
This is why we shouldn't get the time skip now. We should get the rest of the arc.
Oh, we can go on a rant about that. We've got like 20 reasons why we don't want it to be a time skip right now.
I suppose it depends on how you interpret everything with Momoshiki and his dialogue there. But how I interpreted that dialogue was like something like destiny can't be like broken or changed. I think maybe he can misinterpret what he saw. I do think that's maybe possible, but it seemed like what he saw was definitive, and that's the reason why he put all of his cards in that particular vision. And the fact that it didn't happen would suggest to me that something changed, and then that's how I get to it's possible to change the future, so therefore it's possible to break destiny. But getting back to the Neji thing, like briefly, I think everything. Yeah, I do think he was wrong about Naruto, but overall, Naruto having a destined destination, let me say, I think that is 100% true. He was always meant to be who he was always meant to be. He was always meant to do what he always did. He didn't change anything or deviate from anything because that's just what the path was.
I mean,
you mean like in universe or in the narrative?
Well, I think you could say, for example, that Naruto's destiny actually was to break the cycle of hatred. Like that was his destiny. His destiny wasn't to keep doing it. He didn't actually change anything. I mean, that's just up to what you want to pick with his destiny. It's not like, for example, Obito and all them say your destiny is to fight Sasuke. You know, the reincarnates are going to keep fighting. That's your destiny. You can say that Obito's just wrong. You know what I mean? Like, you depends on how you want to interpret it. So I don't think there's any definitive proven right or wrong answer in that regard. Because you don't have
You're lagging.
like
You're lagging a little bit.
Naruto. You are destined to kill Sasuke, but then he does it. Like it's not like he says it.
Yeah. So
well, I'm also out.
Yeah.
Going by the house, right?
Right.
So
Yeah. So
you're lagging a bit.
yeah, I think so. Just more so what I said. I think anything that just for Oodie's question, I think in verse, not necessarily the narrative, because I think the narrative can maybe be doing something different.
Okay.
But just like in verse. So I think again, just anything that he does. So Obito says he's destined to do a certain thing. Basically, it's pretty much stock in the validity of what Obito says in that instance. Anything that Naruto does, basically, he was always meant to do. I'm not really sure of a different way to say it, but yeah, that's just kind of how I feel about it. There's no changing anything. Even in the thought of I'm going to make a different choice, that choice was always destined to be made. So yeah.
For me, I really only care to argue the narrative in this case. But for the in-universe, the only thing I would say is, do you think that like Madara and Hashirama had the same destiny as Naruto, or like Ashura and Indra?
Oodie, what you said.
What's up? Was I lagging?
I think Mello's lagging now.
I think he's lagging, or I'm lagging for him. So.
I've been
so my question
since start, but yeah, here we go.
Yeah, you good. My question, Mello, is: do you think that Indra and Ashura's destiny went on to Naruto, or do you think Naruto has his own unique destiny?
Their
in universe.
That's an interesting question. Give me a second to think about that.
Okay. Well, here let me also add this while I'm here. What about Hashirama and Madara? Do you think Hashirama and Madara had the same destiny as Indra and Ashura, or do you think they had a unique destiny as well? Because they carried the same destiny forward.
I think the interesting element there would be the fact that we're dealing with reincarnates, which would incorporate multiple lifetimes. Or multiple like different types of lived experiences. So I would say, I think it's all entwined together. Yes.
Okay. So what's interesting about this, again, not from a narrative perspective, but in universe, Madara and Hashirama fought to the death. Neither of them died. I mean, Madara, you can say died, but like he used this ability to just not die after the fact. But the Naruto and Sasuke, they also fought to the death. They had their arm blown off. They could have died. They just so happened to, without their own choice, they just didn't die. In fact, if Sakura didn't come heal them, it's arguable they could have died. So,
yeah,
arguable, Naruto did continue the cycle.
I think that was the conclusion of Indra and Ashura. Yeah. So I think in the totality of a life, even one that is restarted and you get new experiences and you become your own individual as well. There are segments that you can look at and say, okay, Indra and Ashura's destiny were to battle to the death or whatever the case may be. Right.
Yeah.
You can maybe say their story because their story persists throughout the generation. So the conclusion would be wherever it concludes, not in the middle, somewhere where Hashirama and Madara are. But that's what I would say. It's just one big thing.
Yeah, because I was gonna say the way to word it would be like the story of Indra and Ashura continues with Naruto and Sasuke. So you could just say their destiny was to fight like 60 times, but then on the 61st time, just stop fighting. Where Naruto and Sasuke is just that last fight. It is one way to view it, however you want to put it.
So narratively, I agree.
Absent of any ability to change fate or destiny, I think whatever happens was always meant to happen, and there's zero thing that you can do to deviate from that. I do think you can make choices, but
this is what I want to pose this. I want to pose this situation to that point. So, the Toad's prophecy, the one involving Jiraiya and his student, was that Jiraiya would have to make a particular. Oodie's laughing. I don't know if he had the same idea, but was that he was going to make a choice. That choice would either lead the student to bring about great destruction or great stability. Either way, it was going to be dramatic. It was either going to be really good or really bad. He doesn't know which will happen. he's basically seen two potential futures, and that future is going to be decided by Jiraiya's choice. If Jiraiya was always destined to make the correct choice, then why is there two futures? Is my question there, because it would just be like, why is he seeing this other future? Like,
Sorry,
there just wasn't an option.
I think I might have lagged a little bit. You said that there were Jiraiya has students and one's destined to be.
Yeah. So I'll just repeat it. I am excited, in fairness. So basically, the Toad has a vision, he has a dream, he has a prophecy for Jiraiya involving his student. Jiraiya is going to have to make a critical selection because the choice he makes is going to determine whether his student brings about great stability or great destruction. So, like, there's a choice. He doesn't know which direction the world's going to go. It's going to be either really good or really bad, but it's dependent on a choice Jiraiya makes.
Yeah.
If Jiraiya was always predetermined to make the right choice, then that would mean that there was no great destruction future. Like, that just doesn't exist, which doesn't really make sense with his prophecy, with his dream, because the implication there was that there's more than one potential thing. It's going to come down to what choice Jiraiya makes, meaning Jiraiya essentially chose the good destiny instead of the bad destiny, meaning he did change fate in a way.
So
or a different way to look at it was that there was no fate. It was going to be one or the other, but there was no fated destination. It was just going to be one of two options.
Yeah. So, two things, and you basically gave the answer that I was going to give to you. There was never a choice because he was always going to pick Naruto, or Naruto was always going to be like the ultimate conclusion of his choice. The choice was an illusion. It was always going to turn out that way. And the second thing would be, this would incorporate, when I said absent of any abilities or mechanics that can influence time, or interact with time or change it. Future sight would be something like that. I see the future, so therefore I take steps to change it. But even in that, I think it's possible that that was predestined as well. So it gets a little interesting. So if the Toad's ability somehow is an ability that influences time in the same way that I'm saying omnipotence or something like that, then that would be something separate than what I'm talking about. But I think the answer is just there was never really a choice. It was just an illusion of choice.
Okay.
So if one was an illusion, but one was real, why were the Toads able to see the real choice? But then also, why was there an illusion that they also saw? So were they even a valid narrator, or did they just guess the future and they didn't actually see destiny?
Well, I think this would be the lack of specificity in the mechanics of his future sight, that being the Toad, right? So I don't remember. I'm going off of memory. Maybe you guys do, but I don't think it was like specifically detailed about what he saw specifically.
It is pretty vague. Like, he sees vague things. Like, he doesn't see like every single detail.
Yeah. So I think in the lack of specificity is where you can kind of play around with that idea. But more so, I think the choices. So I think Jiraiya's choices with Nagato needed to happen, and everything with Nagato needed to happen so that it can influence Naruto and influence his emotional growth so that he can go on to do the same for Obito, so he can go on to save the world. I think everything's linked. Without Nagato, Naruto doesn't go through that maturity arc with the whole talk no jutsu stuff at that level. He was doing it with Gaara and stuff, but at that level. So yeah, I think it's all connected. There's a reason.
This is kind of related, kind of random, but another thing you could also just say is, like, Oodie, to answer your question about the Toad thing, if the Toad just had an ability, let's just say this would be a cool ability, to be honest, where the ability is you see the future, but there's got to be a drawback to every ability, right? The weakness could have been that you see two futures. One is right, one is wrong. You do not know which is which. That's just a cool ability in general. You could apply that to the Toad, hypothetically, and just say that his dreams are like that. But that being said, they're not always like that, because he had a separate prophecy for Naruto that Naruto interrupted, which is annoying. I wish he said the full thing. I wanted to hear his prophetical phrasing, but he just interrupted him when he said, like, you're going to fight this guy whose power lies within his eyes. And then Naruto's like, yeah, I know. So we don't actually know what his prophecy ended in, but he didn't make it seem like there was two options in that one's case.
It might not even be Naruto. It might be like a Boruto thing. Like by the end of the series, this is a big leap.
I don't know.
Yes, like you probably where I'm going, but there's certain conditions that are met that make them meet that particular prophecy. But I think concepts like, and I'm not remembering. I don't remember specifically how this works mechanically. But I think Urashiki with his Rasengan, he can like hop in between different timelines. I don't remember, but
it was like
different
they made it seem like
timelines
he sees
exist
the future, like he knows what will happen, and so he just makes the best choice in the present based off what he saw in the future. If I remember right, that's kind of how it was described. Yeah. He like sees 10 seconds ahead and just decides, okay, this is the best thing I should do based off that.
Yeah, so that type of ability would fall into the abilities that can influence the future. So if he sees like a future thing happen and then he makes choices to where that thing doesn't happen, then that to me, because if he sees the future, then he sees that he's going to always make the correct choice. Then there's no need for him to change anything, right?
Exactly.
So I think when he makes the change, there's a branching timeline. That future I do think still exists, or that timeline exists. But whatever one he returns back to, that's the different one that he's altered. So absent of abilities that influence time like that, I think everything's predestined. Yeah.
I assume you bring the absence of abilities that influence time because of the time traveling turtle, right? And the fact that Boruto like influenced the train to exist in his
it doesn't make any
alternate
sense
timeline.
Actually, as a side note, the train already exists. And they never say that the train was created earlier or something. So like Boruto didn't really do anything. This dude already knew.
Yeah, so I think with that, so the whole idea,
I think they were just trying to make it cool. Like they were just trying to throw that in there, but it didn't actually mean anything.
Yeah, like so the whole idea with the train thing is before Boruto's birth, before Naruto Shippuden, Boruto had already gone back in time, and he had a conversation with his father's younger version, and then Dinky's father overheard, and then as a result, he went on to build the train that Boruto was in episode 1. So it's like a timey-wimey type of bit. But that's not specifically why I'm saying that, but I do think, getting back to the Neji thing, things are predestined and there's nothing you can do to change it. And the only reason why I would use abilities that can alter time, because it just makes sense that if they can alter time, then it can be changed. But absent of that, no, I think everything's pretty much solidified.
Yeah, I mean, it really...
I have 2 fun questions for you. So my first question is, in universe again, not narrative, but in universe, what do you think because we don't get an answer, so this is just pure speculation, just a guess on your part. What or why do you think the specific answer is for why this toad can see the future or destiny or whatever? Do you think it's just a guess? Do you think it's because of sage energy? Do you think it's because there's something with the toads, or maybe the toad's old, or it's some other explanation? For me, I think the most fun answer is the toad has shinjutsu.
Yeah, I mean that toad in particular is special because no other toad has been shown to do that.
Well, that specific toad is a toad that like talked to Hagoromo and saw Kaguya fall to Earth. So
yeah, I think that's interesting. So what I would do to try to get to like the closest true answer, I think maybe would be to look back on the series, look back at the series and look at instances where time was influenced and then see why they were influenced. So it seems like dojutsu or Kekkei Genkai, they seem to be the thing that are in that seems to be influencing time. So why does Toneri know something about Boruto's destiny that he must combat against? I'm not sure, but I can maybe...
He doesn't even have a dojutsu. He doesn't even have eyes.
Exactly. Where's that come from? So then I look at Urashiki, well, I'm like, okay, well, I know he manipulates time, so he does it through a dojutsu. But then also you have technology that can do it with the time-traveling turtle, which could be Shinjutsu itself, because the Karma Seal is technology, but also the Shinjutsu Karma Seal. So it's really interesting. I would say either I'm comfortable saying it's like an ability, most likely a bloodline thing, because toads who don't dream, but when they do dream, they see the future, which suggests that there's another toad that did it beyond him. So I think it's like a bloodline thing within the specific species. They have the specific abilities in the same way in Uchiha, in the specific line has specific abilities. I would lean more so in that direction.
What's really interesting about all these abilities is we know that all ninjutsu is just like a diluted version of the Otsutsuki jutsus, like Shinjutsu is what the latest explanation is. So if all of these different abilities, like even Izanami, Izanagi, and then Madara's Mangekyo Sharingan ability, at least in the video games, I don't know if you consider it canon or not, or quote unquote, but like to go back in time a few seconds is his ability in the video games.
It doesn't really make sense though, to be honest. Just pause, because if Madara had that ability, like he would have used it in the story.
but here's the idea, right?
You know what I mean? Like, why is he not using it? Instead of doing the Izanagi thing, just don't get backstabbed by Hashirama. Go back in time.
Don't get backstabbed by Zetsu.
Like, just dodge Black Zetsu and then choke him out. Like,
it's pretty dope.
But what about what I'm getting at this is, do you think Destiny itself, if you're assuming Destiny canonically exists in the Naruto universe, do you think Destiny is related to the Otsutsuki themselves, or do you think it just applies to the whole universe regardless of Otsutsuki?
Why would you think it will be limited to the Otsutsuki?
Or it like spawned because of the Otsutsuki. Like without the Otsutsuki, maybe Destiny doesn't exist within Naruto. The reason I say that is because all these ninjutsus that we are saying can influence time come from a diluted version of Otsutsuki just existence.
well, no, I mean, the question in that case would be, like, is Otsutsuki the reason why why Destiny can be changed?
That's a
would
good
be
point
the
there,
better
yeah.
question. Because, like,
I think-
the Destiny would still exist. It just would be that Otsutsuki are the reason it can be changed.
Okay, on
Yeah,
that note, do you think Otsutsuki can change Destiny?
I don't think inherently, no. I think based upon what I've seen, like the same thing with the frog or the toad or whatever, I think there are specific abilities that you need to possess, either technology or Kekkei Genkai or Shinjutsu or whatever you want to call it, that allows you to do it. I don't think inherently they can do it, no.
Okay, so similar idea. Second question here. Instead of the toad, apply this to Neji. Because if Neji is in universe, he's just right, like 100%. Let's just assume he is. Do you think he's just guessing? Where did this mind process these thoughts even spawn from in the first place? Like maybe Neji has
it would be
Shinjutsu.
it would be based off his experience that he thought Destiny was like, you can't change your destiny because of shit happening to him and his dad. Like the reason why he's like that
really
is because. Well, yeah, but he believes it because his dad was born a couple seconds after Hiyashi. Hizashi's born 2 seconds after Hiyashi. Therefore, Hizashi was born into the branch family, which sucks. Whereas Hiyashi was born into the main family. Because it was decided at birth. It was really decided because of the time of their birth.
But
and
a
so
lot of
that's
people
where
in Naruto
Neji adopts that philosophy.
I get that, but a lot of people in Naruto have like a sad backstory similar to that. Not like specifically, but just in general. But Neji is specifically the one that chooses to harp on Destiny, not just like once or twice, but this is like his whole main thing. This is like the only thing on his mind, it seems like. Did someone tell Neji this is Destiny, or did Neji come to his own idea about that?
So I think
it might have been discussed a little bit, like to be like, because your destiny is to serve, like they might have said like your destiny is to serve the main household or something. Like they might have hammered that into him, and then he's also visually seeing things that are linked to the moment of birth. So it's probably a little bit of both, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's more like a philosophical thing. Like a
lot of it
is
is just Neji decided to think that way. Gaara didn't decide to think
I don't
in that exact way. Like,
yeah, I don't think he has like some ability or got the information from somewhere, because even beyond his fight with Naruto, where he starts to change the way he like thinks, I think if there was an external element at play that gave him that knowledge or that ability or whatever, then he would stick with that. Like, hey, I may have been wrong about you, but there's something like definitive that I'm pointing to that made me believe this to begin with. So because that's not the case, I think it's just his life experiences and the conclusion he arrived at. But yeah.
No, actually, it's a very small side note. I always wish Naruto just lifted up his shirt when Neji said, "You don't know what it's like to be branded with a mark you can never wipe away." Like, if Naruto just lifts up his shirt, oh, really? I always, like, he thought about it, but I always wish he thought about it. But I always wish he showed Neji.
Yeah, that would have been pretty cool. Yeah, I must admit. You know what's weird though? Talking about markings that like link him to the Nine Tails. It's odd that no one really mentions the whiskers. it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Just thought about it.
Why do you have those? Like, what's going on?
Why do you have for a human, right? Nobody even says, like, Mizuki doesn't even say, like, yeah, that's why you have whiskers, because you're actually a fox. Like, nobody even twists it around in that way. They just pretend they're not there.
Yeah, it's a bit weird for sure. Yeah.
And also, why is it, to be honest though, why does that only apply to like Kurama? Like, it's not like if somebody, I mean, maybe nobody else was born while their mom was a Jinchuriki. That probably is the real reason. But I was gonna say, like, hypothetically, if somebody had been born while they had like the 8-tails Jinchuriki, would they be born with like ink or like octopus tail? Like, would they have like some trait like related to their Biju too? Or is that, I'm guessing just nobody else was pregnant while being Jinchuriki?
Yeah, I think it might have to influence them on the genetic level, perhaps. So, yeah, I think the conditions, like even with Ginkaku, when he like consumes the flesh.
But that being said, though, there had to have been someone else who gave birth while being a Jinchuriki, because otherwise, Obito would have no way of obtaining the information that the seal weakens during childbirth. Like, he wouldn't know that unless somebody else didn't. Like, he had to have based that off something. That's everyone knew it. Like, Hiruzen knew it. They all knew it because somebody was pregnant. So, I mean, somebody else at least did it.
Okay,
Yeah,
ignore my mic, but I have an interesting idea in this whole fate thing as well. So, do you think... So, okay, if Naruto and Sasuke's destiny is, I guess, influenced or spawned from Indra and Ashura, because again, if Naruto and Sasuke just weren't the reincarnations of Indra and Ashura, I don't think their destiny would be to fight each other or to break the cycle or anything like that. So, do we think Indra and Ashura made their own destiny when they decided to reincarnate, or do you think it was they were always to be able to reincarnate, for example?
As a side note, why are they even able to do this?
Yeah, so Indra randomly, he just casually is like, all right, I'm mad, I'm going to reincarnate into the next generation, as if that's just something that people are just aware of, or that they understood. And
then Ashura's like, he's telling Hagura, like, granted, this is a filler, right, when they're talking about it. Then Ashura's just like, that's it, Dad. If Indra's going to reincarnate, then so will I.
Exactly. Like, he's not even, like, motivated by it. He's, like, annoyed by it. He's like, oh, fine. Well, if you're going to reincarnate, I guess I will too. Whatever. So, I don't know.
No, in Ishiki's case, oh, well, who cares though in placing Karma? I'll just reincarnate. How about that?
Yeah, there's some,
I think that they shouldn't, as a side note, I think that they should have kept it more along the lines of what Obito talked about. He talked about, like, the descendants and how, like, it's not drastically different, but the way it felt when Obito talked about it was more just like they're kind of reincarnating, but it's not like they're literally like, this is Ashura again inside you. It's more just like a theme that happens, like the descendants of Indra and Ashura, they always battle. Like, it always happens once a generation, like, blah, blah, blah. But then later on, it's like more direct, like Hagura was saying, like, yeah, I see Ashura in you. Like, literally, he's standing right next to you as a ghost. Like, I don't think they should have taken it to that level, because it is kind of weird.
But then also, if you're going to say that Naruto and Sasuke's destiny was spawned by, or at least changed by, Indra and Ashura, was that an automatic function? Like, the moment Indra and Ashura decided to reincarnate, were Naruto and Sasuke's destinies, like thousands or hundreds of years in the future, already set in stone because of that moment? Or was it only once Indra and Ashura reincarnated into Naruto and Sasuke's, like, the moment they were born?
I think it's both heads and tails at the same time. I think you have to make choices in the present, but those choices that you make are predetermined. I think by the time of Indra and Ashura's era, Naruto and Sasuke at the exact same time were doing their thing. I don't think there's, like, any, like, I think the distance in time is just our perception of it. I think it all happens simultaneously. Indra and Ashura were doing their thing when Naruto and Sasuke were doing their thing when Hagoromo and Hamura were fighting Kaguya. It all happens at once. But everything's just predetermined and predestined. But I think something interesting with the reincarnation thing, I think in the same way Hagoromo and Hamura developed the Kekkei Genkai, I would say, 6 pass Senjutsu, seems to be like a distinct thing for them. I think maybe Indra and Ashura, their ability to reincarnate may be a Kekkei Genkai, or if you want to get like interesting with it, maybe there's some kind of karma shenanigans going on with that. There's maybe somebody you can kind of play around with that to where, I don't know, say we have like a piece of nanotechnology and then we store our soul in that, but it goes from gene to gene in each one of them. So there's an actual technological explanation rather than just a spiritual one. But I think I lean more so like it was just an ability they both inherited. Yeah.
Well, the thing that's also weird about it, though, is it's not actually like that Naruto is literally Ashura. Like, he's not. He's Naruto. That's why, like, they all... Hashirama, Ashura, and Naruto, or even Indra, Madara, and Sasuke all come to different conclusions. Like, at the end of the day, like, they don't do the exact same thing, think the exact same way. So it's like they're different people, like, clearly different people that don't even look alike.
This is where it gets interesting, actually.
So weird, like that they. This is why I'm like I don't really fully like the extremity of the reincarnation thing, because it's like they're not the same person.
I think
the whole thing is weird.
I think Indra is Madara and Madara is Sasuke, but the distinction is just their lived experiences. So I guess maybe they're both the same entity but a different person.
I actually completely agree with Mello here. I don't think it's coincidence. I think Indra and Ashura are specifically choosing who to reincarnate into. Like, I don't think Indra could have been like, all right, you know what, screw this Sasuke guy. I'm just going to choose Neji instead, and he's going to get my chakra. I think it's, I think they are specifically choosing people that are just like them, or maybe even influencing them to some degree. Because again, Ashura, the dunce, reincarnated into Hashirama, the dunce, and then Naruto, the dunce. And then same thing with Indra, Madara, like the most skilled person, and then Sasuke, the most skilled person. Also, coincidentally, Uchiha. And then same thing with Naruto. He's at least somewhat related to the Senju, who is a descendant of Ashura as well. So it could also be like a bloodline thing because they have their blood in them. So maybe he couldn't even reincarnate into Neji. Maybe like only Hamura could reincarnate into a Hyuga if Hamura decided to become a reincarnation, which I don't think he did, but you know.
As a small side note, Hashirama is like different from Naruto and Ashura in that we never see like loser Hashirama that can't do shit. Like Hashirama from the get-go is the best of the best. Like he's already better. He is the skilled one. He's better than Madara at everything. Like it's the opposite of all the other two. Like he's just different.
Not necessarily. I don't think dunce refers specifically exactly to skill, or at least, I mean, they might be correlated, but not like a one-to-one correlation.
I know personality-wise, Hashirama's the same. He's kind of like silly, kind of stupid, but also kind of smart. You know, like he's just like them. But the thing is, like, I think, let me look for the chapter. Naruto, or Hashirama describes like how, like, no matter how skilled the parents are, that like skill doesn't always pass on to the children. He's referring to how Naruto, like in the academy, sucked, basically. Let me just look for the chapter. But it's like that wasn't really how it went with Hashirama. Like this dude was ready to go. Like
that's fair. I have nothing directly to say that Hashirama was not strong as a child. The only things I have to link to are when Madara says that he can like beat the adults of his generation at his age, and he's like the same age as Madara. That's really interesting how Hashirama's like surprised by it. Like, wow, you're that strong? So that tells me Hashirama isn't as strong as the adults of that generation at that time period. It could be to imply that Hashirama's just not that strong.
Yeah.
No, not yet. Not until later.
Madara.
No, Madara says later that Hashirama's stronger than him, like as a kid still. So,
no, I think it's implied that Hashirama. I think it's implied that Hashirama was the same way. So I can look if you want, but.
Yeah, so I think with the Hashirama point, he inherited a thing that elevated him quicker than, say, a Naruto by comparison, to where he inherited wood release. Yeah, so that got him an exponential boost in comparison to a Naruto who just didn't have that. But what Naruto did have was his Uzumaki lineage, which was influenced, I do believe, when...
You cut out, Milo.
It mattered the most, because to Orochimaru, which messes up his chakra flow. Then later on, Jiraiya removes what Orochimaru does, and then he can walk on water now. So a lot of the critical moments for Naruto, he was like really nerfed from the forest of death to his battle with Kiba. And then when
He's just
Neji,
nerfed in general by Kurama too. Like,
yeah, and with Neji, that battle is the like where you get to see him like really show off what he has to work with. So I just think that's just contextual.
honestly, even then though, I disagree. I think it's more the Gaara fight, because in the Neji fight, honestly, Naruto still isn't doing anything until he uses Kurama, and even then, Neji's just really surprised. He's almost like surprise nerfed, and he still kind of like wins until he just is too cocky to win, like essentially. Even then, but the Gaara fight, yes, that definitely was like base Naruto showing off. Like this is, or even the Mizuki fight, like that's just what Naruto can do.
Yeah, I think
In
that's
my
fair. I
mind.
think that's fair.
There's two different ways to reincarnate in my mind. The first way is like the way Avatar does it, to where once the avatar dies, the next avatar is immediately born. There's like zero downtime in between. And then there's the second way, to where like the tailed beasts do it, to where they die, then it takes a few years, and then they'll just be born again. So I think Indra and Ashura are the same way, considering Naruto and Sasuke were born years after both Hashirama and Madara died. So I think they do wait until they find like a suitable vessel for them to reincarnate into. But this also tells me, what if it's not from birth? Like, what if Naruto didn't receive Ashura's chakra until like the war arc, or like until he's like 12 years old or something? Like, who's to say he got it when he was the moment he was born? If anything, did he have it before he was born? Like when he's like, when Kushina's like 9 months pregnant, is that the moment he got it, or like at his conception? Who knows?
Yeah, I don't think we can really say.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that would also fix the quote-unquote plot hole with this whole Neji thing, both narratively and in universe, as you could say Naruto didn't even have that until the war arc.
So I think it's interesting because how does Ashura's power, if you assume he did have it for his entire life up until that point in the war arc, how did that influence him or not influence him? Like, he has Ashura's chakra. Well, Ashura should be, if you think he retained six past chakra or just his normal chakra, Otsutsuki chakra, he should be pretty powerful. So why doesn't Naruto have access to that? It could be a vessel type of situation to where you don't want the vessel to like die. It's almost like how Minato put half the Nine Tails in a baby Naruto because the other half would have been too much. So maybe they can't really influence them at that level because, well, they're just kids. They're 17 and younger at that particular point in the war arc. So their bodies just would have like been destroyed or whatever. My only caveat with that is I think they would have been strong enough by the time they got Hagoromo's power for them to be influenced by Ashura and Indra, but maybe that's just not mechanically how it works as well. It's interesting. It's definitely interesting. I'm going to the duck guy. I'm going to mute you on my stream. So if he says something, I'll just, yeah,
I think he just has background noise. He doesn't know that it's theirs, I guess.
No, I just DM'd him to be like, hey, you got background noise. Can you mute? So
I'm doing laundry.
Oh, okay.
doing laundry. That's funny. Oh, so if anything, if you do want to say it's a plot hole, it's not going to be with Naruto defying destiny or anything. If anything, the plot hole here is that the sensory ninjas don't detect someone else's chakra within Naruto and Sasuke. Like, oh, hey, why do you have Ashura's chakra within you, 6-year-old Naruto?
I guess they don't know. They don't know. But that being said, though, they could have, if somebody was of an age where they could have met Hashirama and Madara, so like Tsunade, for example, if Tsunade was a sensory ninja, anyone of that age that's a sensory ninja could have hypothetically noticed the same exact chakra between the two of them.
Well, Otsutsuki can erase their chakra
Tobirama,
signatures.
actually.
It's possible
Tobirama,
Indra and
he
Ashura
could have
just
been,
doing
Sasuke
that.
and Madara. They should have been like, why do they have the same chakra?
yeah.
like, maybe
I guess
it just adapts to Naruto and Sasuke's chakra signature.
That's what I think. I think it
That's
kind of
most
like,
likely.
it's more like you can
Yeah.
see the hints of it, but it's not like Naruto literally is Ashura and has literally all Ashura chakra. It's more like there is Ashura inside Naruto, and there's Indra inside Sasuke, but it's not that like they themselves are 100% Indra and Ashura. I think it's the more just Indra and Ashura exist in them, but not like are 100% of them.
Yeah, it makes more sense than just they choose to hide their chakra signature like in Otsutsuki. First of all, we don't know they could do that, so that's already a leap to assume that would be the case. And
I
then
mean,
second of all, why would
Hagoromo
they?
could sense it. So, yeah, I mean, Hagoromo literally sensed their chakra, so clearly they're not hiding it.
Oh yeah, true.
Wouldn't Sasuke's chakra get like influenced by Orochimaru, and that's why Tobirama doesn't think that
Wouldn't
his chakra-
Sasuke's chakra be influenced by Orochimaru? That's interesting. So here's another idea. So if Orochimaru happened to take over Sasuke, I don't think Orochimaru could sense Indra's chakra. Would Orochimaru then have access to Indra's chakra? Or could, if
I
Indra
don't think
hadn't
it's
reincarnated in Sasuke yet, could he just wait to find someone else to reincarnate into? He could reincarnate into Sarada.
The thing is, like, I mean, like, it's not like, I don't think it's just like Sasuke says, I'm going to, it's not like, all right, so when Sasuke had the curse mark or when Naruto has Kurama, it's not like Naruto say, okay, I'm going to tap into Ashura's chakra now. It's just like, there's just seeds of Ashura inside him. It's like, it's not like a power source so that like Orochimaru could say, oh, wow, I see Indra's chakra here. Let me use that. It's just, it exists throughout. Like, it's just weird.
It probably
It's
just
like,
blends with their chakra in some way.
just blends in. Like, there's like,
Yeah.
you know, maybe it's 5% Indra. It makes up 100% of Sasuke. I don't know, like whatever the percentages would be. But it's just like, I think it's more just, this is why I said they shouldn't have made it as extreme as they did, because that's why you have these stupid questions.
Do you think Indra and Ashura have like a special ability to sense each other's chakra? Like Indra can specifically sense out Ashura's chakra?
I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case.
So ATG, I invited you to speak if you can come up really quick. So I was bringing this up to Mello the other night when we were talking, and one of the ideas I brought up was something that ATG brought up to me, and I personally was like, wow, this is a stretch, but let's just roll with it for now. So hopefully ATG can explain this if he's here. But in the 5 Kage Summit arc, after this arc, before the war arc, Naruto says he sensed something within Sasuke, the implication being, according to ATG, that he was sensing Indra's chakra again, but he doesn't know who Indra is at this point, so he didn't say, oh, I sense Indra's chakra. He's just like, yeah, I sense this other power within Sasuke, similar to me or something like that.
So for me at least, I know exactly what he's talking about. It's when like Hagoromo was talking about Indra and Ashura. He says, so then do you know who the other one is? And Naruto thinks he has a flashback to that conversation when everyone's like, yeah, we should kill Sasuke. Naruto's like, no, let me deal with them because, you know, like, power is not what defeats Sasuke, blah, blah, blah. I think it's more so that, like, Naruto understood. He didn't, like, say, oh, I sense Indra inside Sasuke, or, oh, I sense this mystery person inside Sasuke, because he didn't even know Ashura was inside himself. I think it's more so that he just, like, understood that there was something different about him and Sasuke, in that like the key with Sasuke wasn't going to be about just beating him up. It was just about like breaking this hatred inside of him, which was something related to Indra, but he doesn't know that like, oh, there's another person haunting Sasuke like a ghost. It's more so just like he knew what he needed to do was defeat the hatred in Sasuke, not to literally beat him up in a fight. Like,
So
I
I
think
put
that's
it in,
more so what it was. And then so when Hagoromo
chat.
was talking about it, Naruto's thinking back like, this all makes sense now. That's why this all was the way it was. So he's like, yeah, Sasuke, I mean, it was an easy pick. If he's going to pick someone to be Indra's reincarnate, obviously it was going to be Sasuke. We all picked it, like, at that point. So I think it's more so like that.
Trippy, if you can pull this up on stream. So this is really interesting for a few things. First of all, we were saying earlier how can other people detect Ashura and Indra's chakra within Naruto? In the chat. Yeah, you got it. So the first thing I want to point out here that I didn't think of until now. So Hagoromo says, these eyes of mine can clearly see Ashura's chakra clinging about you. So he says these eyes being plural, so it can't be his Rinnegan on his forehead. It has to be specifically the Rinnegan. So why didn't Nagato see
why didn't Madara notice? Why didn't Madara say, hey, who is this guy clinging about you?
Because I mean, it's not like, oh, I can barely see it. It's like, yeah, with these eyes, I can clearly see it, Naruto. It's like, I physically see it literally behind you. So
yeah, like, why didn't Nagato and Madara at least see, like, half of Ashura? just see, like, oh, well, who is this mysterious figure floating around you? Like, no, that's weird.
Yeah, I think maybe it might be the case that how they reincarnate it, it might mean something like different than how we're defining it. That's possible. Then that would get into like the mechanics of whatever ability this is itself. So it seems like they accompany their vessels, I'll just call them that, but they don't influence them to any degree, really, because it doesn't seem like you have access to their power at any point. They just seem to be there. So
yeah, it's like, this is again, I'm probably going to say this 100 more times. All the more reason why they shouldn't have taken it to the extent they did. Because yeah, it is weird. It's like they're there, but they can't do anything essentially. But like they are kind of influencing them in a weird way. It's like because they're there, it makes their like destiny be to fight each other. But beyond that, they're not doing anything. It's just like, because they're inside you, we have to fight each other because of what Indra and Ashura do. Outside of that, we can't do anything. It's kind of like what it's.
Unless you want to say Indra's arrow could only be used by an Indra reincarnate with that chakra, but I don't think that's the case.
I don't know, dude. Indra didn't even use it. Why did Sasuke name it Indra's arrow? Like, it's not even Indra's ability.
Yeah.
Does Indra even have a crossbow in the anime filler art? Like, like even in the filler, does he even have that? I know he was a purple Sussanno, but like he doesn't even have the crossbow.
Listen, he doesn't need the crossbow. He just needs the arrow. Just go melee with it.
He just is doing it.
he throws it like a knife.
Lance. Yeah. The spear.
Interesting.
Okay, so looking back to this scan, so Hashirama says, I can clearly see Ashura's chakra on you, and then Naruto, he stops to think. It's like ... and then he says in his mind, could that be ... So he's clearly already thinking of something. He doesn't say it out loud, but in the audience doesn't know. But like we get an implication that he could be thinking of Sasuke here. And then Hagoromo says,
actually, I was thinking like, is he thinking like, could that be like, oh, is that who that was that whole time?
Oh. Oh no, but he doesn't have Rasengan, so he doesn't know.
Look, he's looking behind him to his right. And where the words could that be is exactly where Ashura was in the previous panel.
Okay, well, if he can sense Sasuke chakra, he probably sense his own chakra here. But
that'd be hilarious. Like, oh no, that's who that guy was. He never thought about all the years.
So Hagoromo says, considering you lack of surprise, perhaps you've actually sensed little brother Ashura's presence inside you. So yeah, I guess he would be sensing Ashura's chakra there, or he could already know. But Hagoromo continues. He says, as I surmise, then you ought to already know who the reincarnate of Big Brother Indra is, and then ... So if you go to the second scan, because obviously the like narrative there is that it's Sasuke, but like in universe, it hasn't been explained yet. Naruto hasn't said anything. So in the second scan, he says Sasuke, and then we get a flashback. This is the important part, the flashback.
This is the part I was
this flashback is after the 5 Kage Summit arc. So they basically asked Naruto, well, why didn't you just finish off Sasuke when you had the chance? As if that was like a reasonable thing to ask Naruto, considering Naruto stubbornly calls him his best friend. That's the real explanation. But he says that, so Naruto says, reading through this panel here. Okay, so Naruto says that's not the point in reference to he could have taken down Sasuke here. He says that you can't beat Sasuke just by being strong. Now I know. So because this flashback happens here, he's saying now I know. So ATG is saying that now I know is in reference to Naruto sensed Indra's chakra within Sasuke after or like during the 5 Kage Summit meeting. Or that part.
He doesn't necessarily need to have sensed it.
Keep in mind, this is Naruto was not in Sage mode here. And this was before he had KCM, so he didn't have his access to like negative emotion sensing through KCM.
No, but the thing
is,
Oodie,
and Naruto's not a sensory ninja, so Naruto himself just sensed via ATG.
No, he doesn't have to have sensed
Indra's
it
chakra
because
here.
Obito, he doesn't have to have sensed it though. Obito literally explained it to him. Obito told him who it was. So Naruto could just take Obito's story and say, "Oh yeah, I understand now." Like all he needs is Obito's story to make the same conclusion. So he doesn't have to have sensed them.
Okay.
He
could have, but he doesn't
Making
need
sure
to.
I'm not flagging out or anything. Is anyone else here besides me and Trippy?
Can you hear me?
Okay.
What? I was lagging for a little.
Did you? Okay. Yeah. Okay. I hear you now, though, Mello. So, Mello, did you have thoughts on that? I'm assuming you heard everything I said.
Hit me up one more time.
Okay, so base Naruto, it's implied in this arc that base Naruto was able to sense Indra's chakra when Sasuke and Naruto were meeting under the waterfall after the Danzo fight.
How was it implied?
So this flashback comes when Naruto saying he understands that Sasuke is the reincarnate without Hagoromo having to tell him. So this flashback is immediately after that. So the implication being this flashback is related to that. So Naruto says in this flashback, when asked why he didn't just take out Sasuke here, Naruto says, "Now I know." Well, what does Naruto know here? The implication being that he knows something is related to Sasuke here, and the fact that he knows Indra's chakra is like tied to him, but he doesn't know who Indra is or whatever.
Yeah. So just to make sure I understand everything. So while he's having that conversation with Hagoromo, while that happens, he has a flashback to the 5 Kage Summit arc, or towards the end of it, where he met blind Sasuke under the bridge, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I do think if it happens during that conversation with Hagoromo, post him mentioning Indra and Ashura, then I do think it would be related. I think that's probably the most logical conclusion.
Oodie, real quick,
like,
did you hear anything I said like 2 minutes ago?
Okay, I like that. Anyone else's thoughts?
Can you not hear me?
Are you not able to hear Kamui, Oodie?
Oh God, is it doing that thing again? No, I can't. I'm gonna leave and rejoin.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, okay, because I was like, he okay, that's why. I was like, bruh, like, you probably heard me say the same thing 3 times, Trippy.
Yeah.
Okay, Oodie, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
What did you say, Kamui?
I kept saying this.
Oh,
You just
I think he's lagging now.
Of course. God dang it.
well, it's fine.
It's like lag by proxy. Like he lags
like,
and I lagged and Ood lags.
Yeah.
It's like a chain reaction.
Frustrated scream glitching. We're gonna have to change the thumbnail to have a glitch effect on it.
I did get this channel member question, if you don't mind me asking you guys. I think he wants to get your opinion. Madara brought up that him and Sasuke had the same Mangekyo Sharingan pattern. I wonder if that was linked to Indra. I already gave my answer.
It was. Well, he said like perhaps we're well, he didn't sense Indra, by the way, but he just said like perhaps we're tied by something like, yeah, I don't remember his wording, but like he just said perhaps they're really connected on a deeper level anyway. Which the answer is they're both Indra's reincarnates. Madara hasn't had this explained, which actually, as a side note, this ties into what, actually, can you hear me by the way? Am I still lagging out?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I can hear you.
Okay. Well, this is going to, all right. I'll start by saying what I was saying to you earlier, Oodie, was that Obito explained the whole Indra and Ashura thing to Naruto. So Naruto doesn't need to have sense. Sasuke.
Point.
He can just take, like, he doesn't have to have sensed him. He can just believe Obito. But with that in mind, moving on.
Yeah,
am I still here? Okay.
Yeah, it's just Kamui. Kamui's lagging pretty bad.
Okay. When did Obito tell him about the Indra Ashura stuff?
This is Kamui, if you can hear us, just stop talking, please. So he tells him when Naruto's like laying down in his room after he has his panic attack. And then like so Kakashi comes behind him, Yamato like wraps him up, and this is like, yeah, he's in the snow still.
Yeah, I remember.
So I think
you're a little muffled for me. I didn't catch what he said.
No idea.
Okay. I think if Naruto is referencing to what Obito told him, then it wouldn't make sense why he would flash back to that specific scene under the bridge. He would have flashed back to when Obito told him, I feel like. But hey, just my opinion.
Well, the thing is that he like understand. I mean, again, it depends on what you want to interpret. Like the flashback, like the whole conversation there was that like he needed to defeat the hatred in Sasuke, not just beat him up. Like was the point. So that's kind of like what that original topic was. But I mean, I guess you could interpret it as he sensed Indra, but then if that's the case, why is he so surprised to have sensed Ashura? I don't know. Like,
yeah, it's like because even in the instant, I'm just gonna mute.
Josh, do you want to just mute yourself so your laundry noises don't come up?
I'll just mute him real quick.
Yeah.
In the instance that we're like, if we're talking about Sasuke, like, I just don't really understand why Under the Bridge was like this very specific moment. I mean, I get his chakra got darker and so on and so forth, and maybe Naruto sensed that, but I feel like there are other moments prior to this one that he could have flashed back to as well, if that was the case. But I do think maybe it's like an interpretation thing. But I'm open to it. It's interesting though.
Okay. Yeah. So I probably should have got
As
to
a
these
side note,
comments earlier.
I told Dux to just add us when he's done with his laundry, but I'm muting him for the time being.
Yeah, I
Okay,
muted
yeah.
them for the stream as well. So
Okay, that works.
What's
So,
SSP? What is that? Snake?
Six
Sage?
Path Sage something, maybe?
SSP.
Power?
So
Six
what?
Path Sage Power?
he said, he
Wait,
says, what's the
wait.
difference between SSP and
SPSP?
Snake Toad Sage Chakra?
Wait, hold on. What was the
Snake
abbreviation you
Sage
asked?
Power.
Wait,
SSP.
Six Path Sage Power. Okay. So you talking about?
We'll just ask for clarification before we answer, because no one else will just answer
Wait,
the
what was
wrong
the
way.
question? Wait, what was the
It was-
question?
It was what's the difference between SSP and Snake/Toad Sage Chakra?
I'm
SSP.
assuming he
I think
means
he meant
like Six Path
SPS.
Sage. But yeah.
I was thinking he either meant SPS for Six Path Senjutsu, or he meant BSM for Six Path Sage Mode. I don't know.
Yeah, he might have did a
SSM, I
typo
don't know what
thing,
that
maybe.
is. For SSP.
Okay. Maybe if I interpret this, he means what's the difference between Six Path Chakra and then like Sage Chakra, maybe.
Yeah, like he might just mean like what's the Six Paths Sage Mode versus Sage Mode.
Yeah.
It's
Six
probably
Path-
what the underlying question.
I think Six Path Chakra. I think me and Kidomaki kind of agree with this, if I remember correctly. But we think it's like a Kekkei Genkai thing. But I think Sasuke describes it as being like distinctly different than normal chakra. Whereas like Sage Chakra is a combination of your normal chakra and nature energy, which produces a new type of chakra called Sage Chakra. But yeah, it's the best I can do off the top of my head. But thank you for
I
your
mean,
time.
like, all right, so there's a lot of, between the different things, there's regular chakra, there's Sage Chakra or Senjutsu Chakra, there's Six Path Sage Mode, there's Six Path Chakra, and there's Six Path Senjutsu, all of which are different. And there's different ways to look at it. So, I guess, all right, so starting with the basic things, okay, regular chakra, you take stamina, convert it to chakra. In other words, you mix mental and physical energy and you produce chakra. That's regular chakra. Sage mode, you incorporate nature energy into that mix and you get Sage chakra or Senjutsu chakra. Those ones are pretty simple. So then when you get to the Six Path one, this is where it gets into a gray area of how you want to interpret it, because the first question is, do you need Six Path Chakra for Six Path Senjutsu or Six Path Sage Mode? Well, that's up in the air, whether or not you think Naruto only got the stage stuff or if he also got the chakra stuff. This is where you have to start debating it. That said, the 10 Tails itself was described as nature energy by Naruto and Kurama. So you could look at Six Path Senjutsu as just being like specifically 10 Tails nature energy versus regular nature energy. That could be all there is to it. Alternatively, it's that plus having Six Path Chakra to get it. There's a lot of ways you can look at it.
Yeah, I think maybe the problem was Kishimoto didn't really specify.
Yeah,
what
he didn't.
Six Path
He
Chakra
didn't think-
was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The best we
Six
got was
Path
like
Chakra is
Sasuke.
really just, it's implied it's just Hagoromo's chakra. And that's Six Path Chakra. The guy who's called the Sage of Six Path. It's just a nickname. Six Path, it's a nickname for Hagoromo. because every time they imply six-pass chakra, it's always in reference to things like the Rinnegan, like containing six-pass chakra. Hagoromo says that when you mix Indra and Ashura's chakra, it resulted in the derivation of his own chakra's power, which was the Rinnegan, meaning Hagoromo's chakra and the Rinnegan are connected, just as six-pass chakra and the Rinnegan are. So I really think it's Hagoromo's chakra is six-pass chakra, more or less. It's just another name for it.
Yeah.
Because everything
probably.
six-pass related was in reference to Hagoromo for pretty much the entire series.
I think getting back to like I think I can't quite remember if Kiddo agreed with me on this or not, but I think he maybe did. But the KK Genkai thing, I think it's linked to him and Hamura six-pass chakra, but like Hamura isn't really around, so it's just a guess of mine.
Yeah, well, so that's where it becomes the thing is, do you think Hamura has six-pass chakra, or do you think Hamura has Hamura chakra that's equally as powerful as Hagoromo's six-pass chakra? That's just what it boils down to.
Yeah, I think six-pass
do you think they have
chakra,
the same chakra, or is it two different ones that are equal-ish?
I think it's just like a genetic thing. Now, whatever you want to call it, six-pass chakra or Hamura's chakra, it's just like a descriptor. Absent of like the name itself, I think it on the foundational level, it's the same. Of course, it'll be based upon like their genetics. They are twins, but they're not like genetically identical. But I don't think all Otsutsuki have six-pass chakra. In the same way, Kaguya doesn't have six-pass in jutsu. It's like a Kekkei Genkai thing for
yeah, like it's like a mutation that they awakened as a result of being Kaguya's kids. Like
yeah,
I would say the same thing. Like Momoshiki, which actually kind of relates to a bit of pun out tomorrow, but Momoshiki like has a different way of using chakra and making chakra from people like Hagoromo and every other ninja master. Like everyone's just different.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So the easy way for me to think about it is one uses Hagoromo's chakra, the other just uses Sage Mode. There you go. They both use KCM. That's all you need to know.
What, or to be even broader, just one is Hagoromo related, one isn't. Hagoromo fits in the picture somehow in one.
Too many forms. It's crazy.
Or another way to look, just like, if it says six paths, if it has six paths in the name, it's a power Hagoromo probably had. Except though, in fairness, Indra's arrow wasn't a power Indra. So it doesn't always work that way.
That's true, yeah. Interestingly enough about Indra is that unlike Hashirama, or I mean, sorry, just unlike Madara, Indra did have the same exact Sussanno as Sasuke. So that could also be what he means when he says a similar Tomoe pattern or whatever of his eyes. Except
actually, let me look at that. In the manga, does it look identical? I want to see if
Indra doesn't have a Sussanno in the manga because Indra basically just.
I think it shows in one manga. I think it shows one panel, like of them clashing, and that's it.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure there's one panel. It's the one where you see the Ashura avatar. I can zoom out.
The real answer, the boring answer, is just that the production was lazy and didn't feel like giving.
They didn't think of it in like a creative way. That is the reality. They did not, like when it came to Madara, they weren't thinking like, oh, let's give him an identical Sussanno. When it came to Indra, they were like, okay, let's just make it obvious that they're related by giving them the exact same Sussanno.
Yeah, Indra even had the same exact eyes as Sasuke. So
yeah, so I'm looking at it. I'll take a screenshot and do side-by-side comparison here. I got the Indra and Ashura thing. The question is, I don't know what Sasuke image to use for the Sussanno.
Wait, so
is there a Sussanno image you can think of where Sasuke's looking to the left?
No, I have no idea.
I still find it hilarious how the Ashura avatar looks like the Kurama avatar. It's like, why? Why does it look like that? Like, for what reason?
God, that's
Hashirama's
right
was
there.
way more unique. And also, I know in the Indra and Ashura filler arc of Naruto, Ashura has wood style, but in the manga, like that's never once implied, never once shown. It's more so like six paths Naruto, like at the end, like that's like Ashura. Like that's just the way Naruto was at the end of Shippuden, that's kind of like what Ashura was. Same with Sasuke. So why is it that Hashirama somehow managed to get wit style? Why is he the only person in history to get wit style? Which just seems like a derivation of the divine tree, given that Hashirama's deep forest emergence. Oodie, you'll remember this conversation, which we can get into actually. So Madara uses divine deep forest emergence with the divine tree. There's literally just like the same thing, just on a smaller scale. How the hell did Hashirama get this shit? Like, why?
First of all, Kamui, how dare you disrespect my girl Moegi, confirmed wood style user?
I don't care about Moegi. I don't even understand this. Why did they had the perfect opportunity to show it when Moegi used Earth style to trap Amato? Why didn't you have her freaking use wood style to do it? Why are they telling her she can do it and then not showing it when they have the opportunity? Yes, why does Moegi?
What's more interesting about this? Aside from Ashura having wood style, Ashura also just spontaneously made the Rasengan. He just like used it perfectly.
Yeah.
He like threw the Rasengan as if it was a Rasen Shuriken. Like Ashura is more skilled with the Rasengan than Naruto is.
I'm pretty sure he made Rasengan swirling around inside his Rasengan.
Yeah, the planetary Rasengan or whatever.
They're getting real creative. They got really creative, I must say.
Listen, it's timey-wimey stuff. They just stole the abilities from the future.
No, it's they got lazy with the production. That's 100% what it was. Like, that's the bottom line with this shit. Is when it came to Indra and Ashura, I hate to say it, they got a bit lazy. End of story. Both in the manga and the anime in that regard. Like they did get a little bit lazy with it. That's just how it is.
You know what they should have done? They probably should have voted for them for the top 99. They would have got more.
Yeah.
Instead,
So we get a better story of it.
Just Minato randomly. Oh, okay.
I think the Minato one has potential to be really cool. It just depends on what they want to do with it. I definitely think it can be really cool. It's going to depend on what they want to do. If it's just, I'm sorry, I have a strong suspicion that Minato creating the Rasengan is going to be in it based off, I don't know if this was a accurate thing, but I heard it was going to have to do with a jutsu. I don't even know if somebody just made that up or if that's real. But assuming it's true, I'm like, okay, it's a very good chance the Rasengan's the one they're going to go with. I think it would be much cooler if it's about flying Raijin and becoming the Yellow Flash, something in the Third Great Ninja War or Second, whatever. I think that would be cooler. But I definitely think the Rasengan might be a focal point if that's true about the whole.
It seems like Ashura is the one that made the Rasengan.
Yeah, apparently, yeah, he made the Rasengan. Actually, yeah.
Whoa,
actually, it's
what if the Minato manga is just
Ashura?
What if Minato's just looking into Ashura? So like the Minato manga effectively does become the Ashura manga. Like we get Minato in the first and last chapter, and it's like 40 chapters of just Ashura.
He's like, that's a cool jutsu idea.
The last panel, that's the only time you see Minato.
He's just like, I'm going to pretend I created it, though. Even though it's implied that he created it from the Biju bomb, but... Which, actually, I don't know how he did... Like, what Biju was he fighting to come up with that?
Go ahead, Mela.
Like, I guess you could assume 8 Tails, because we don't... When did Minato create the Rasengan, for that matter, though? Because Kakashi says he created the Chidori because he couldn't add lightning to his Rasengan. Now, in the Third Great Ninja War, in the Kakashi flashbacks, he's got the Chidori. So it's just like, when did Minato... I don't know, dude. When exactly did he create this thing?
Yeah, I guess fighting the 8 Tails, because he did make it when he was
That's what
fighting
I
the Tailed
assume.
Beast. Inspired from the Tailed
Like,
Beast
I
bomb.
assume that he got it from fighting B. But, like, when exactly? Also, this is really hard to find a profile picture of Sasuke Sussanno that looks very similar to the Indra one. Because in this, like, some of these are like, I can definitely say, this is probably good enough to look at it. Oh, crap.
I think,
Can you guys hear me?
These do look like almost identical.
Okay. Someone said that they couldn't hear me. So I guess we're good.
I think
Wait, but let me look at Madara's perfect Sussanno, though, because that one might look identical to just blue.
Yeah, I think with like the Naruto top 99 thing, I would go like 2 routes with it. I think it'll be really cool if they explore the afterlife through Minato and kind of like swerve everything with that. I think that's needed. And then like the second
like
one,
while Naruto's alive, but he's like in the Reaper Death Seal / inside Naruto.
More so like post Shippuden, like just explore his, I guess you would say, journeys in the afterlife, and we can get like an understanding about the Pure Lands. I think that could be pretty dope. Or we're going like it starts with Boruto, like his like in the middle of the time skip, and he's like looking into like the flying Raijin or whatever, and then like he sees like his grandfather's picture, and then like slowly zooms into it, and then it starts the story from there, implying that Boruto is going to get like flying Raijin or some cool shit like that. But I'm interested in seeing what comes about from the manga. Hopefully it's something fun and good.
Yeah, hopefully it's not boring and stuff we already kind of know. That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah.
Like Minato wasn't the best character to win.
Yeah.
What's ironic about Minato winning? So Minato only won because this whole thing was turned into a popularity contest, which is ironic considering it's a popularity poll.
Yeah.
The thing is, it was turned from a popularity poll into a vote for who you think deserves the best manga, but then we didn't get that because it turned back into a popularity contest.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I do think it'll be cool if Boruto did get Flying Thunder God. Like he would mimic Sasuke's whole thing, that being his master. I think that could be pretty interesting.
The problem is it would be cool for everyone to get it because it's a cool juice. The problem is we can't have too many people doing it. But like,
I mean, it'd be cool for Boruto though. I feel like.
That being said, though, if Sasuke doesn't die, or at least not anytime soon, I would say Sasuke is the one who should be learning it. Like he already knows how to use something very similar. He should be like learning it. Frankly, I don't know why more people aren't learning it. The friggin' Genma, Raido, and the unnamed guy can learn it. Kakashi should have learned it.
Well, it's not that they learned it. It's that it takes so much chakra that none of them can perform it unless all three of them combine their total chakra.
Correct. But I'm pretty sure Naruto has plenty of chakra.
Well, that's what I was like. I think Sasuke, his chakra issues like ass. So I don't think he's going to be learning that anytime soon. But I think with Boruto, it's both like an honoring his master's Rinnegan ability somewhat, and then also his lineage to his grandfather. I think there's like a little bit more there with Boruto than Sasuke, and we're not getting it with Naruto, I don't think. So I think maybe with Boruto.
Yeah, we're never not.
Yeah, I could see him doing.
For Naruto, they just tried to make Case the equivalent.
Yeah, he has like Sasuke's cloak, his sword. He throws the sword. It has like the markings on it. He just that should be so cool.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah,
so this is a side note. Just getting back to the Sussanno thing. I went and looked. I got some pretty decent photos to look at for it. So, I mean, all three of the between Indra, Madara, and Sasuke's perfect Sussanno, they all look similar, of course. Like even Kakashi's, I think, might have a lot of similarities. That being said, a very small detail. So yes, Indra's, at least on the face part, is identical to Sasuke's. Madara's is ever so slightly different. So let me actually take screenshots and post these so you can all see. So, but essentially, there's three little circles you can kind of tell, even in this one of Sasuke. Whereas Madara's, there's not three circles on his face. It's just like a big gap. It's like his mouth is open, essentially. So, just in case you were curious about the ever so slight differences, put this in the regular chat.
I got you. Yeah, that's funny. I did want to read off a few comments that we got just from a while ago, even. But not anything about Urashiki because we can talk about that another time. Same with Toneri. So, okay, going back to the whole fate thing, it's possible someone made the theory is that the whole reason the Toad saw two fates, like one that's an illusion, one that's real, is because of Jiraiya and then Kashin Koji, who is also obviously in the future. So maybe he saw like both of their fates, and we could use that. Again, that's like the biggest stretch of all time. And obviously when they wrote it at that time, they had no idea that Boruto would even exist. But I like this theory, just that they could implement this now.
So this has another side note. Speaking of Kashin Koji, so would you say? I mean, obviously,
and then
no. Kashin Koji has a different.
I think it's definitely possible. The whole idea of the Toad sees Kashin Koji, but because he just doesn't have like the clearest vision of the future, he doesn't realize it's a clone. He still thinks it is Jiraiya.
That's funny, but like, what would Kashin Koji's? I don't get the impression that Kashin Koji is gonna have like a bad.
There's a lot
like
of
the bad
and
guy
Urashiki things.
No, but
Can
oh,
you not
Um,
hear
that is
Kamui
that.
again, Oodie?
Is it probably
Oh,
says
really?
Mr.
Oh my
Mayhem, I
god.
think.
Why does it do this? I don't know.
Because
Let me
you guys were talking over each other, and I just figured
Okay.
you probably can't hear him.
Okay, are we good now, Kamui? I can hear you.
Wait, well, I don't know. Are we? Wait, what are we saying?
What do you think of the whole Kashin Koji thing?
Oh,
Uh,
I was gonna say, like, I don't get the impression that Koji is like the bad choice version of Jiraiya. Like, I'm getting more the impression that Koji is going to be like a good guy. So that would be my main problem with it. I don't think Koji represents the bad choice, essentially.
Well, maybe not even that. Maybe just the fact that Jiraiya seemed to be the good choice, but then in the end Jiraiya failed, he died. And then similarly, Ishiki's telling Kashin Koji that you have the same fate as Jiraiya, which is really interesting going back to the whole Destiny thing. Do clones
I
have
was
the
gonna
same
bring that
fate
up,
as the
yeah, 'cause
original?
they don't have
But
the same
then
fate.
Kashin Koji denied his original fate. Or you could argue that the clones by default have a different or like the inverse history, but I don't know. I think this is really interesting. Just this whole
I don't think
dynamic.
they have an inverse history by default. I think it's just more that the point is they don't have the same thing.
They don't have the same fate, but why did Ishiki of all characters say that they did? Like he's not like I think
Because-
you'll have the same fate.
So
He's like
this is
you
gets
have the
into
same fate.
Ishiki's the only philosophy of Ishiki began was that all genes have a predestined fate. So Kashin Koji is created from the genes of Jiraiya. So in his mind, well, if you have the same genes, you have the same fate. You're gonna die the same way. But that wasn't true because they don't have the same fate because genes aren't the only thing that relates to fate. Most likely, just as with the cases with personality, nature versus nurture, a little bit of both here. The way their life experiences, like there's other things involved in your fate. Let's be real, because like hypothetically, let's just use okay. So like Gar's genes, like yeah, we'll just use that as genes. Right? That's like a thing.
You said
but
you
like
said
his
Gar's
dad's
genes?
actions.
You're lagging,
like,
Kamui. Did you say
I was
Gar's
just saying, like,
genes?
I want to like I know how to like.
Kamui,
Hello.
Kamui, you're lagging. I don't know if you can hear us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Okay. Well, he can probably hear us, but we can't hear you, Kamui. So we'll just So I'll talk now instead, Kamui. What was he saying? I forgot already. Oh yeah, he was saying the thing about genes. So this is
Don't
really
you
interesting.
love how we
So-
walk outside in this?
Oh, now you're back. Yeah, it's totally fine. It's totally good. So here's an interesting idea is that obviously Ishiki, like from the writer's perspective, he was basically just saying, well, isn't it ironic how you are sharing the same fate? So I don't think Ishiki was like peering into the future, even though it's like Ishiki who's an Otsutsuki, and Otsutsuki have like time travel, and Ishiki himself is like the whole wishing mallet symbolism of he can grant any wish. So he could probably seemingly see into the future or some degree, but we just didn't get anything related to that
Actually,
other
I don't
than
think
he
Ishiki
said
can
that.
because of all characters, Ishiki is one of the ones that shows zero aspect of that. Like Kinshiki and Ishiki show zero foresight abilities. Momoshiki, Urashiki, Toneri, they do. I think that's just not all Otsutsuki can do that. Would be my assumption.
Yeah, so in my opinion, it's just from like the writer's standpoint, he was basically saying, well, Kashin Koji, I'm going to kill you, except like the writer can't write that directly because that's too on the nose. So he was just writing it in like a cool way that like Naruto fans would enjoy the most. So it's like almost fan service. Like, hey, Naruto fans, you remember Jiraiya? Well, this is Kashin Koji and he's going to die the same way as Jiraiya. That's basically what Ishiki was saying to the audience there.
Well, yeah, but like, I mean, specifically though, he's saying that all genes have a predestined fate and that your fate was decided by your genes. Like, I mean, yeah, obviously you can say that Konnichi just wanted it to sound cool, but I mean, in the story, that is Ishiki's belief. It's the
Yeah,
genes.
so that just
that are
goes back to
causing-
narrative versus in-universe. So, okay, let's just assume it's not Ishiki's belief. Let's just assume Ishiki does have knowledge that we don't know. is it possible destiny isn't like a per person thing? It's like a per, I guess, bloodline thing. In this case, it would go back to the Otsutsuki in this regard.
Well, I mean, Ishiki just seems to believe that like your genetics determine your fate. I mean, so
Sorry,
yeah, so yeah, bloodline thing you can say yes, but he's just, but even on an individual level, he's just saying it's your genes that decides everything.
So Mello, what we're saying right now is so Kashin Koji, when he like lost to Ishiki wasn't saying it's Kashin Koji's fate specifically. He said it's in your genes to have this destiny. Do you think destiny applies to the genes of an individual? So like the like family orientation maybe, or like the bloodline? Or do you think destiny is like its own thing separate from genes, and that it's just so Ishiki's just saying this?
Well, he can be like partially right, but without, he doesn't have to be like 100% right or wrong. He can be like half right too, is the third option.
Yeah, I wouldn't take what he says literally. It feels like some kind of like philosophical thing to me. It's just how I interpret it.
Yeah, because I mean, he was wrong.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Like at best, he's half right. He's definitely not 100% right.
Mello, the reason we got on this topic, we were going back to Fate a little bit. So one fan theory that we had from I'll say Skolo was he had the idea that maybe the Toad saw like two different futures, the real one that we got and then the fake one. Because what if it isn't the fake one? What if because he like can't see the future clearly, what if he was seeing Jiraiya's future and Kashin Koji's future? He obviously just didn't know it at that time. I think it's very interesting. It's definitely possible. The writers had no idea at the time that they could go that route, because obviously Kashin Koji and Boruto itself wasn't even like a written concept at that time. But like they could do this in retrospective, looking back at the series and be like, could we tie this in? I think it's a possibility. It's just not very likely.
As a side note, that's related. Do we have a timeline of how old Jiraiya was when he first got that prophecy from the Toad? The reason why I'm asking is because is Naruto alive yet? Because I don't think he was, because he hadn't had Minato as a student yet. I was gonna say, like, could the Toad prophesize about people that weren't born yet? Give me my question. But Naruto wasn't born yet because he didn't even have Minato as a student yet by that time. So he definitely could.
Kamui, this would just go back to several months ago, but I still don't think he said the student. I think you're just wrong there. He's just saying Jiraiya.
No, we literally said it.
You can say you showed it on screen. I did the timestamp, so I paused to read it. It said nowhere that, oh, Jiraiya, your student specifically is going to be the one to change it.
Oh my god, you want me to pull it
child
up
of
again?
prophecy.
All right, that's
Okay.
it. We're pulling it up again.
Oh
my god, dude. I gotta find what friggin' chapter this was.
Mello, what were you going to say?
No one knows we're right on this.
He knows I'm right because you're wrong.
No, you're
My bad.
wrong, dude. He literally, Trippy, you know this
I'm
is
pretty
true.
sure I found
Trippy's
the
on my
as
side here.
well. I need to find it again though, because I don't remember where it was.
Oh my god. Listen, we can
We'll
talk about this
look for
another
it
time.
again,
Right
you
now
know,
we're talking
whatever.
about Naruto versus
let's try to
Boruto
stay
in all
on track.
regards.
I like how we haven't talked about. I like how we've talked 0% about adult Naruto versus Teen Naruto.
Mello, out of pure curiosity, do you know who Anime Planet is? But like all the E's are threes, and like a YouTuber, like the like comment YouTube guy. I'm explaining this so terribly.
Is it a content creator? I don't watch.
No,
other
it's
Naruto
it's
creators.
here, I'll just put it in the Discord. The reason that I say that in the hashtag chat. I assume he's coming from you.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Let me see.
Wait, what are you talking about?
He's coming for me or from me?
From you.
Okay.
This is my
Because he
theory.
said, Teen Naruto wins no argument.
Do you recognize him?
I was just curious if you recognize him.
So let me scroll all the way down to the bottom. It's actually a dope thumbnail you guys got there.
Oh, thank you.
Teen Naruto wins, no argument. I suck with names, so if you are in my chat, I do apologize. I don't know.
Okay, well now I just feel bad.
Yeah, like if you show up consistently, then I'll definitely remember. I'm better with faces, but that's not like an internet thing. So, sorry.
Okay, I did want to say one more thing on Fate, or like the writing between Naruto and Boruto before we move on to like actual power scaling debate nonsense, whatever. One more thing on Fate is going back to the whole Neji thing. So we've explained in universe how it works, but like from the narrative, I think this absolutely tracks because Neji is acting in the same way that the world is acting in. So Neji just so happens to specifically call out Destiny, but Neji is doing the same thing the world's doing. He's an obstacle for Naruto. So in the Land of Waves arc, Naruto makes his ninja way. He makes this in response to not Haku specifically, but more broadly, generally, the world itself. So Naruto is declaring that he wants to change the world. So from a narrative standpoint, he's overcome Haku. So power scaling aside, the next threat he has to face has to be stronger than Haku, because we already know that narratively Naruto can overcome someone like Haku, or at least mentally, talk no jutsu. This is why this is relevant. But the way the world offers its obstacles to Naruto is through their antagonists, their specific individuals. So Haku, Neji, Gaara, Kimimaro, Sasuke, and all of part 1. Even to a degree, Orochimaru, if you really want to say. So the world is offering obstacles to Naruto because Naruto wants to change the world. Naruto is a static character, so the world is the thing that has to change. So the threat to Naruto has to continually growing. So Naruto's obstacle has to continually grow stronger. In this case, the character themselves has to grow stronger, at least in terms of like narratively, the like philosophy, not necessarily the power scaling. So Neji's doing the same thing here. He's just so specifically calling out Destiny, and then Naruto still has to overcome Neji, overcoming the world itself in order to change the world in the end. So this applies from the Land of Waves to the end of Shippuden. So I think the whole Destiny thing, it's completely fine because Naruto is still overcoming Neji in the end.
I don't think his next enemy needs to be stronger.
I would say you could, instead of physical strength, you could also use mental strength. To your point, Oodie was going to say this,
that is what I was clarifying.
Haku, because Haku like mentally lost. I mean, he gave up. He just said, "Oh, fuck it, my life's worthless now." Essentially, so like he doesn't have to be physically stronger.
Yeah, so the same thing. So Naruto has like the same story structure as like The Walking Dead, and I'll keep this brief because a lot of people haven't seen The Walking Dead. But Rick's whole goal is to protect his family in The Walking Dead. That's like the main overarching theme. Just like the same way Naruto's overarching theme specifically would be to change the world in this regard. So Rick, he doesn't change to protect his family. He just has to overcome stronger and stronger enemies. So the enemy of season 1 has to be weaker than the enemy of season 2, or rather the enemy of season 2 has to be stronger than the enemy of season 1, because we already know Rick has the capability, the narrative power to overcome an enemy as strong as what they were in season 1. So obviously the enemies narratively have to progress over time, otherwise there'd be no point, because we already know Naruto could overcome them. It has to be an enemy stronger than what we've seen Naruto overcome in the past.
My bad. I was muted. I think maybe for me, a better word would just be an enemy different. Because getting back to the Haku thing, he was obviously like nerfed there. So what Naruto needed to overcome wasn't like just this strength gap. I think that did exist, but again, Haku was nerfed. I think it was more so like this philosophical battle that they were having. But more so, I think that was that being Gaara or whoever you think comes next, Neji. I think they're more solidified in their beliefs, even if their beliefs are incorrect or misguided. They have they're a little bit more firm in what they believe in comparison to like a Naruto who's still trying to figure out the world. But that's just my whole thing with like the whole strength thing. The whole Rick thing, I think it gets back to it, just not stronger necessarily, just different. I think different people, different mindsets, different philosophies, different obstacles yield different results for the character. And then by the end of it all, you have all these different pieces. They all come together to create like this fully formed dude, maybe. But yeah, that's mine.
So rather than a power, they get stronger in terms of their resolve. So we see this play out in the series. So Haku, the reason he's the first villain is because he says that he is a broken tool. So Haku's resolve at the beginning of the arc is stronger than Naruto's resolve at the beginning of the arc. But by the end of the arc, Naruto's resolve has to be stronger because he has to overcome Haku. The same thing for the tuning exams. Neji's resolve has to be stronger at the beginning of the arc compared to Naruto's because Naruto has to overcome it. Because if Naruto's resolve was stronger at the beginning of the arc, then Neji isn't narratively a threat to Naruto.
What do you think Naruto's resolve was at the end of the arc, Land of Waves?
The end of the Land of Waves is to change the world. It's his ninja way. He can't give up. So the whole point, his resolve really, his whole narrative arc is to not give up because again, he's a static character. So the whole point is that Naruto doesn't change. The world tries to change Naruto, but Naruto, by not changing, is overcoming the world. So it's not that Naruto himself has to overcome his enemy or become stronger than his enemy. It's basically that Naruto outlasts his enemy until his enemy becomes weaker than him in that result.
Do you think that applies to the Pain Invasion arc?
Yes.
Yeah,
Where Naruto doesn't change?
A better example, I think, would be the war arc. When Obito kills Neji, spoiler alert, he kills Neji, he kills everyone else. He's like, all right, Naruto, fall into despair. And regardless of why, you can say Hinata. The point is that Naruto doesn't do that. So that is Naruto overcoming Obito narratively. That's why Naruto won.
Yeah, like Obito essentially tried to like make the world beat Naruto the same way it happened for him, but Naruto like doesn't. He outlasts it until Obito eventually caves in and says, "You know what? I wish I was like you." Like
in the most simplistic way, narratively, it's Obito tells Naruto give up. Naruto says no you. Then Obito says no you. Then Naruto says no you, and they just go back and forth until Obito eventually concedes. Like, oh yeah, you know what? It was me. Yeah, no me. You're right.
That's the best.
So it's not that Naruto's answer changes. It's that Naruto waits until his narrative opponent's answer changes. In the case of...
and that actually applies to most of Naruto's fights, even like literally, although most of them he's losing at first, he just keeps losing, but not giving up until eventually the opponent loses. Like,
yeah, there's a correlation between power and narrative, of course, but it's not one-to-one, which is why we see differences. But the whole reason
I think it's a representation of the way it starts is like the opponent is like they tempt Naruto into their. Gaara is a great one. I think Gaara's a great fight for this. Gaara's winning physically, and he's also making Naruto like start to cave in towards his side. That hey, maybe this is what makes a person strong. Maybe like I should have been like him almost. Like, but then he says he remembers Haku. Says, "Oh, you know what? Never mind. Gaara's wrong," and then he starts to beat him up. Like, it follows that path.
So it's not just a stubborn thing. Naruto doesn't win just because he gives up, or because he doesn't give up, because obviously the villain wouldn't care in this regard, the antagonist, I should say. So it's because how it plays out in the series is what we see. It's because Naruto grows to understand his opponents. So this is why he beats Obito, because he's like, all right, I've seen your past, come over to our side. This is how he convinces them. This is why Talk no Jutsu exists, the same reason he beat Nagato, the same reason he beat Haku, Gaara, Neji, because he did have the sad backstory, just like everyone else, and he understands them, and he talks it out, so to speak. But I bring this up because the reason that he didn't beat Sasuke at the end of part 1 isn't because he didn't give up, because he didn't. And it's not because he wasn't more powerful, because arguably he was. It had nothing to do with that. The reason Naruto narratively lost, which is different from every other regard toward he just didn't give up. The reason he narratively lost here is because he didn't have compromise. Naruto compromised with every other villain to make them concede. Naruto didn't compromise with Sasuke, so that's why Naruto lost. He said he's going to break every single bone in Sasuke's body. It doesn't matter what Sasuke wants. Naruto wants to bring Sasuke back to the village, regardless of Sasuke's feelings.
Isn't the compromise him changing though?
Who?
Naruto. That's why I brought up the Pain Invasion arc, because Naruto was like kind of dead set going into that arc. Excuse me. I'm entering that fight about what needed to be done from his own like perspective, of course. And then he gets hit with the cycle of hatred thing, and he just completely folds, like no answer, no nothing. And then he even wants to kill Nagato, but then he has to like hold himself back. So like Nagato forced a change out of him, that compromise that you're talking about. Whereas in prior arcs, you were saying that Naruto was unyielding, like he didn't really change, and he's trying to like influence the world around him. But that's what I was saying. Like, doesn't the compromise mean he did change?
The reason this applies to the pain arc is because that was the midpoint, which I've described several times in the past. But one thing of the midpoint is that it's either a overwhelming loss or a false victory. In this case, it's an overwhelming loss. Naruto has no answer. Naruto narratively lost at that point, but obviously it's only halfway through the arc, so there's another half of the arc in terms of this whole fight, at least, with where Naruto has the ability to win, but that's not until later. But this is Mello, I'm going to say something blasphemous for your stream. So, hey, anyone listening on Mello's stream who isn't prepared for this, sit down, because I'm about to say I'm crazy.
Real quick before you do. I was muted on my stream, so you mind if I just repeat myself and then you can,
Go ahead.
Okay. Hold on, I think my bit rate just dropped. Fuck. Okay. So what I was, I don't even remember what I was saying. Just go ahead and go. Never mind. I'm sorry.
Oodie,
Okay.
actually, I'll let Oodie. I would say Oodie. I was gonna say about the compromise thing. I don't know if that's the best way to word it, because in the Neji fight, I don't see Naruto compromise anything. I just see him like he doesn't like say, "Oh, you know what?" Like they kind of agree with Neji. It's just a straight up like, "No, you're wrong, dude." And eventually he proves it to him in a way. So I feel like
the thing with the Neji fight, he does a compromise that, like, afterwards. So it's after he's already beaten him.
What's the compromise?
It's everything he says to Neji, his whole speech to Neji after he already punches him in the jaw, and it's like Neji's like, I can't move. Well, this is also technically it is still during the fight, because Genma doesn't say, all right, Naruto wins until after Naruto's speech. This is kind of in universe unfair to Naruto, because Neji has said, all right, I can't move. Genma's like, all right, Neji, I'm gonna give you like 3 minutes. If you still can't move after that, yeah, I'm gonna just give Naruto the win.
Actually, no. In fairness, Naruto was like on the floor, but didn't call the fight off. Like, but Neji kept saying, like, "Bruh, he's done," and Gemma's was like, "Nah, we'll give him."
Genma just sucks. He needs to be fired.
I was just like,
Hayate did it way better.
Really gonna give him a chance. He's like, hold on, we'll wait and see. If he's not dead, we're gonna give him a chance.
Well, then again, Hayate also almost led to both Lee dying and Hinata dying. So if anything, I think Genma did better.
Genma's just like, I'm gonna let them do what they need to do. But
okay, so
the thing is, so what is the compromise? How does Naruto compromise versus Neji even after? Well, he doesn't explain why Neji's wrong. He says, but just so you know, I used to suck at clone jutsu, but now look at what my specialty is, essentially. Like, that's what he tells, and then Neji's like, you know what? You got me. There's no compromise. He just convinces Neji. So what I might say in the Sasuke fight is, Sasuke didn't give up. He didn't agree with Naruto. To the end, he still held fast to his conviction. He's the only, or probably not the only, but one of the only times in Naruto where Naruto doesn't convince his opponent of something. Sasuke continued to believe what he believed and do what he wanted. So I think that, I don't get the compromise wording, I guess, essentially.
This is where the compromise thing comes in. Naruto is unable narratively to compromise with his opponent until he understands his opponent. So he wasn't able to compromise with Neji until he understood Neji. He got where Neji was coming from. This is why he starts off with, just so you know, blah, blah, blah. Like, I was a failure, but this is my thing. So he
already understood Neji. He didn't understand Neji anymore after saying those words. He said those words. He understood Neji when Neji told him his backstory. But then he says, like, even so, that's not an excuse for what you're saying and doing. Like,
this
that's
is why
essentially,
the Neji fight
he says,
is
I understand why you came to that conclusion, but you're wrong. Here's why. And you're even doing it yourself. Like, when he points out that, like, hey, I thought your destiny is to serve the main household, not to beat it to a bloody pulp like you did Hinata. So after all this shit you're saying, do you even believe it? Because you're not acting like you do, in a way. Like, he understood Neji, but he was saying, like, you're wrong.
But
They're not
when
even
did he
doing.
understand Neji? He understood Neji halfway through that fight, the midpoint of that fight, when Neji explains his backstory.
that's
Naruto
what I
didn't
said.
get it until after that. But unlike every other fight in Naruto, the Neji fight's unique because Naruto gives his speech after the fight's over rather than during the fight or right before it ends.
He
So
also
that's why
gives
Naruto
speeches.
wins.
No, he gives speeches during the fight too, though. Like,
Yeah, but that doesn't count.
honestly, I think like Neji, like the thing when Neji, like has like a flashback of like, well, actually, I guess it depends on who's saying it. Never mind. I was gonna say there's a point right before Neji and Naruto do their final clash. But I say clash, I'm not referring to the punch under the ground. Like when he does the Nine Tails Kunai versus rotation clash. Like depending on if you think that's Naruto or Neji, hearing Naruto's words or Neji's words, it gives a different conclusion. But so never mind what I'm saying right now. But anyway, the point is, I feel like compromise is a weird word because if you want to say compromise, it would be like, okay, I'll tell you what, Obito, if you come to my side, I will do this for you. In the case of pain, if it's here's a little compromise in a way, if you just believe in me, I'll bring about world peace for you. It's kind of a compromise. It's like, okay, pain's like, okay, I won't do it. I'll let you do it. We're gonna get the result I want either way. Kind of. He's not like doing a compromise. Like, if you want to say, oh, he'll change the fate of the Hyuga clan for Neji, but Neji didn't ask him to do that. Naruto just said he'd do it because he wanted to prove him that you can change the destiny. So I don't get compromise the word, essentially.
Well, by God, you know I'm going to talk about that pain arc in just a second. But
Oh yeah,
the reason this is
for that.
important, again, Naruto can't compromise until he understands his opponent. This is why he lost in the
Oodie,
Naruto
what
versus
is the
Sasuke fight, part
compromise?
1.
What I'm saying, what
didn't-
is Naruto compromising? What is he giving in order to receive against Neji? After he beat him, he's not giving it. He's not losing something to receive something. He's just telling him, you're wrong. Here's an example of you being wrong.
So
He didn't
it's
lose any-
completely fine. His compromise can still be no compromise, which sounds weird. I understand. It sounds hypocritical or whatever. But the difference is that Naruto understands Neji at that point.
That's okay. All that's fine and dandy. I'm saying I don't understand your use of the word compromise is really what I'm getting to.
A compromission. That's not a word, but I'm going to use it anyways. Does that make it better for you?
Compromise. Just to say, like, what is the compromise? I think compromise is the wrong word. I agree with mostly everything you're saying. I'm just saying I think compromise is the wrong word.
I think you're the wrong word. So
think-
the reason he
No,
lost
I
is because he
think
didn't
what it is-
understand Sasuke.
well, I
The
think-
whole point of Shippuden
just-
is for
okay,
Naruto to understand
slightly
Sasuke, which is
different-
why he
here's a
understands in
different
the
way
end
of
because he
wording.
says he understands Sasuke in the end. But go
We're
ahead.
gonna do
Calm
this.
down.
Are we really gonna do this? Okay,
Calm
Oodie, you know what will happen. I will go on for that. We did this once before. Okay, I think, all right, it's a better way to use your word compromise in a different way, I think makes more sense. So, you know how you can say, like, someone conviction was compromised? Is another way of saying, like, it's weakened. It's not 100% devoted, like you have second doubts and so on. I think a better way to say it would be, like, his opponent's mental, their conviction, their goal, whatever it was, they are compromised. That's when Naruto wins. Narratively, physically, whatever, whichever way. It's when the opponent becomes compromised. Naruto doesn't compromise with them like, hey, here's the deal. I will give you this apple if you give me the orange. Like, he's not making a compromise with them. It's
This
that
is
the opponent.
ridiculous.
No, but it's the opponent's.
You're giving me
like,
the benefit
what's
of the
the
doubt by completely obliterating me by using the same word, different meaning.
Exactly. That's the
Screw
point.
you.
Your meaning of the word is wrong, is what I'm saying.
Well, you know, I'll just say that you misinterpreted, and that was always my definition of compromise.
That's not what it
So
was.
hot of you.
No, well, if it was, you worded it terribly. I think no, the point is the opponent becomes compromised in their conviction, their goal, whatever the thing is, their philosophy, and that's when Naruto wins. That makes sense. Sasuke didn't become compromised in his mindset in that fight, and that's one of the only times Naruto loses. I think that's fair. When Naruto loses himself, he's compromised. He doesn't have an answer to Pain's question. Later on, he does, and Pain doesn't have an answer to be like, you know what, Naruto, you're wrong. He becomes compromised, starts to believe in Naruto, and then he does. Like, I think that works better. Now, say you're
Okay, good.
pessimistic about Pain.
Yeah, so back to the Pain arc. Mello's chat, sit down. Pain arc sucks. That's my answer for you, Mello, from like 10 minutes ago. The reason is it's just because the Pain arc sucks. And me and Kamui have been going back and forth on this for the past like since we started this podcast
will
at the
never
beginning of
agree.
the year. But I remember
That's a
Mello,
hot take.
we actually talked about this once, like
Yeah.
literally a year ago in chat. I don't think you were live at the time, but I remember we at least talked about it a little bit.
Can I ask you a quick
It
question though?
narratively sucks. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm breaking my foot off in this Eminem. So
Breaking your foot off? Okay. Never heard that before.
breaking my
Just
foot
really
off
trying to
now.
open that M&M pack.
No, it's just like a
dangling
southern
feet.
thing, I guess.
Actually, Mel, at the
Basically-
side note, are you still doing the bicycle swings with your feet right now?
Oh no, I actually have this I have like this little cage thing that I'm putting my feet on right now. So no, I'm good. I'm officially
Walky.
not
I need to
walky or talky. So I am talky, but not walky. So. All right. So my question was, what do you mean by understand his opponent? Outside
Is
of
this
like
to
the
me or
obvious,
Oodie?
like for Oodie.
I
What all does that encompass?
don't mean anything outside of like the definition of understand, because understand is the word they use in universe.
So what? To know, to comprehend.
No, he gets their point
their
of
own
view. He gets their
viewpoint.
point of
Yeah,
view.
specifically on the world, because that's the conflict here is their worldviews.
So it's like a totality of their worldview.
So Naruto understands their worldview, but like I was explaining another time recently, Naruto had the right answer, whereas his opponent had the wrong answer. We just don't see that play out until Naruto realizes that himself, and then he makes his opponent realize that. But he can only do that if Naruto understands his opponent in order to understand his opponent's answer is wrong. Narrative.
So that's why I was because I would imagine you would have to, Jesus Christ. I would imagine you would have to understand like the totality of their position, right? In order for this to make sense for me. That's why I was trying to like narrow down, like, what do you mean by understand your opponent? Like, does it mean in totality?
Yeah, so what Naruto has to do is he has to point out his opponent's flaw, their glaring flaw, as what the screenwriting term is. So Naruto can't do that until he understands his opponent's glaring flaw. He can only do that if he understands his opponent's view on the world, the thing they're conflicting over in the first place.
So it's not the totality of the totality of the understanding. It's just like maybe a little bit of understanding.
It'd
I'm
be
trying to figure
specifically on the conflict that they're conflicting over at the time, which would just be their worldview, because Naruto's trying to change the world.
I don't think
Okay.
Naruto achieved this
Well-
when he beat Mizuki.
So
He didn't have his
using the Naruto
idea when he
filler,
beat Mizuki.
did not change his mind about Naruto. He
Yeah,
believed
this
the
only
same
applies
thing.
to Land of Waves and beyond.
Okay, because I was like, I don't know about Mizuki.
Well, really,
here.
it doesn't, because that only applies in that regard. But like even Mizuki was trying to make Naruto give up, and Naruto didn't.
Well, I wouldn't say he was trying to make Naruto give up. He was just saying like, you're a beast, and like, I mean, it's more like he wanted to. I don't know. I guess you could say
Give
it in a
up
way,
on
but
the
the point was
world
he didn't like
himself.
point out like, hey, you're wrong to fear me, because he kind of, in a way, gave Mizuki reason to fear him by beating his ass. Like,
So the
I
thing with
wouldn't say
Mizuki,
that, like-
Mizuki isn't even a character narratively. Mizuki is the world itself. So it's like, what's the term? Because you have like different conflicts, like character versus environment, character versus character, character versus self. Mizuki is quite literally the environment in this case. Mizuki is not
Yeah.
a character because Mizuki doesn't have his own unique perspective. Mizuki has the perspective of the world itself.
Sorry,
yes, I would agree. And Iruka kind of essentially defeats the world in a way by having the opposite perspective, that Naruto
Yeah.
wasn't a fox demon, he is a human.
hold
So
on, real quick,
Iruka's
'cause
hero of episode
I'm
1.
about to lose
just
my
remember
train of
that.
yeah, I'm gonna lose my train of thought. You guys like shifted to a different topic really quick.
We do this every time.
Yeah, so the reason why I'm trying to figure out like specifically, because I would imagine if Naruto needs to change the worldview of his opposition, then he needs to understand everything that his opponent is trying to do.
I think, well, it's more so he needs to in order to change his opponent's viewpoint, he needs to understand what their viewpoint is and why they arrived at that viewpoint. He doesn't have
Is
to
there-
agree with them,
well,
obviously.
In
But-
universe,
Is there like
Naruto
a-
still needs an answer. This is why to Neji he says he's going to specifically change the Hyuga.
So okay,
Become the
you guys
Hokage.
jump to the Neji thing real quick. The pain thing. Is there like a reason why this is like a difficult yet? Like, I feel like it's like a yes or no answer, basically, is like I'm trying to figure out. So does it matter if he knows a little bit about their motivations, or does it matter that he knows the totality of what they're trying to do? Yes.
The more he knows, the better, I guess.
You're like, which one?
I would imagine the totality.
Okay. I think so too.
Okay.
So, I
Like,
think if we
knowing a
agree-
little would help, but it might not be enough. Like, he needs
Right.
to fully understand to really, like, effectively talk no jutsu him.
I think that's pretty common sense. So now we have an understanding about like the totality of like understanding, right? The totality of his opposition's beliefs. Okay. So if that is the case, and I think it is, I don't think that works. Where you say that he doesn't compromise, I don't think that applies in the pain invasion arc. Because like I mentioned before, when he enters into the actual conflict, there's a very specific thing that he's looking to do. But he alters or compromises that to try to learn or understand what Nagato is going to do. So this compromise comes before the understanding. So that's why I think the pain invasion arc is a little weird with what you're saying.
This is why I said the pain invasion arc sucks.
Well,
so in this
no, I mean, you
regard, I
could
think
say
this-
this-
hang on. Before I lose my train of thought on this. So
I was gonna say, no, the thing you could say, though, is after understanding Nagato's story, Naruto says, I still hate you. I still want to kill you, but I'm not going to, because I understand that's only going to continue the problem based off everything you've said. So you could also say that he compromised again afterwards.
I'm
by still not
he
wanting
said
to-
that. I'm not sure he said that afterwards. I think he said that
He
before.
does. He does say, I'll look for it if you want. He says, I get where you're coming from, but I still hate you. But I'm not going to kill, like, I'm not going to, like, act on it, essentially.
No, that's fine. I'll take your word for it. You don't have to
okay.
pull up
Well, in
scans
this
or-
regard, I think it also goes back to protagonist versus antagonist. These are very fluid and dynamic roles within a story. So the protagonist is the one who wants something. The antagonist is the one that is diametrically opposed to the protagonist. They want the exact opposite. So in this regard, this can be applied to, like, for example, the Avatar: The Last Airbender, the final fight. Sorry for anyone who doesn't know what I'm saying here. I'll keep it brief as well. So Aang fights Ozai, the final fight. It's like the boss battle. Aang is obviously the main character, the protagonist. Ozai is the Fire Lord. He's the bad guy, the antagonist in this case. Halfway through this fight, the midpoint, Aang, before I get there, Aang's whole point of this fight is he wants to defeat Ozai without killing him. So Ozai obviously wants to kill Aang. So in this regard, at the midpoint, where it becomes a false victory, and this is interesting because it is a false victory, is Aang, for one reason or the other, he technically loses the fight in base, and then he turns into his avatar state. So at this moment, it's a false victory because Aang now has the power to win because the avatar state grants him power. It's basically like Naruto using the Nine Tails in part 1. But what this does is, because of Aang's ideology to defeat the Fire Lord without killing him, if Aang kills the Fire Lord, he loses. So when he switches over to his avatar state, he loses control, like, mentally, just like Naruto. He's like in a rage or whatever. Aang, at this moment, the reason it's a false victory, it's false because whereas Aang gets the power to defeat him, the victory, it's false because Aang is now the antagonist. Aang is trying to kill Ozai. He's going against what he wants ideologically because he's in his rage, his wrath. So Aang is the antagonist. Ozai is the protagonist because he doesn't want to die. And that's what the second half of this fight reflects. So keep in mind, Aang switches from protagonist to antagonist at the same time. The Fire Lord switches from antagonist to protagonist. And you could argue that this whole pain arc, it has a similar dynamic here, not in terms of power, but in terms of philosophy, at the very least, ideology. To where Naruto, for a moment, becomes the antagonist during the midpoint, the false victory, where Pain becomes the protagonist. This is why a lot of people like to say Pain was right, quote unquote. A lot of Naruto fans say that. I think it's more of a misinformed take because they don't understand the narrative of what's happening here. But what do you guys think on that?
I don't. Okay, I'll just give my honest. I'm not really sure what that has to do with what I presented. I guess maybe if you're saying the position shifted, then Nagato would have to understand Naruto's motivations, and then maybe he makes a concession.
I think the whole compromise thing was a bad wording. I stand by it. The opponent needs to become.
And then you use the
compromised
same exact
fairly.
word, so I don't want to hear it, Kamui.
No, because it's a different meaning though. I'm using
But
that
it's the same
wording.
word. You said it was a bad word.
It is a bad word.
You're a bad word.
Oh my
Compromising with a person is not the same as being compromised in your beliefs. Those are not the same things. So it is a bad word. You use the word wrong. How about that?
I use the word wrong. That doesn't make the word bad. I use the right word.
Compromised in their beliefs, and that's when they lose. I think that's a better way to word it than compromising.
I just don't think the pain arc like kind of works with that. That's all. Like he
well,
just
no,
didn't
I mean
know the totality of
Nagato
his
became
position.
compromised in his belief towards the end of his talk with Naruto, and then he believes in Naruto. He narratively loses when he says, "You know what? Fuck it, I'm reviving these people and killing myself. I believe in you." Like that's when Pain lost, or Nagato lost, I should say. At that
I mean,
moment.
like from the perspective of like Naruto. Yeah.
What do you mean?
Like yeah, like when he he's resolved in doing the thing a certain way, but then he makes a compromise so that he can better understand the totality of Pain's story, so that he can give him like a cogent answer.
Yeah, I agree. Like Naruto compromised.
Yeah,
Like
the compromise comes before the understanding in this instance.
Yeah, I don't think Naruto has to understand someone to compromise with them necessarily. I just think the opponent loses when they're compromised in their beliefs. They start to waver, and that's always when they lose. In Sasuke's case in part 1, he didn't do that. He never lost. So just don't use compromise anymore.
Yeah, I think that's a different situation than what Oodie was talking about. But yeah, I get your point. Yeah.
So anyway, Oodie, explain, why does the Pain arc suck? Which, for all the people watching, it doesn't, obviously. Don't listen to Oodie. But Oodie, explain your blasphemous reasoning. Or he doesn't even have any reasoning.
Oodie? Oh, he's muted.
Yes, he has no words. Because he doesn't have an answer. He's like Naruto when Pain asked him, how will you solve world peace? He didn't have an answer. Same with Oodie. That's why he hates the Pain arc, because he's the same way. He doesn't have an answer.
I just don't think he's here.
Yes.
Oodie? No?
His power may have cut out again, like it does every stream.
No, he's just muted, so.
Maybe he's talking to someone. Anyway, should we get to the title of the podcast?
What is the title of the podcast? Forgot.
About Teen Naruto versus Adult Naruto.
Oh yeah. No, I don't think so.
I have about
I guess
15 minutes till I have to go as well. So if we want to do that,
well,
we gotta kind of speed run it.
Okay, well, we'll start. All right, so I guess, Mello, you can give us a little bit of a rundown of you and Oodie's conversation about
really quick. Last thoughts on the thing that I wanted to say. So the thing you were saying, I like the word waver. Naruto has to make his opponents waver, which is how Naruto narratively wins. He couldn't do that to Sasuke, which was coincidentally the midpoint of the entire Naruto story, the overarching story, the whole series. Is the midpoint is the one time Naruto loses the false victory.
Yeah. And that's what happens a lot of times in between arcs too. They follow the same structure.
Naruto making his opponent waver. Maybe that's a better word than compromise for you.
Yeah, but, that's what I was trying to say. I use compromise for you, but yes, that was the point. He doesn't. It's only when they waver. Which, as a side note, speaking of wavering, all the more reason we shouldn't have the Boruto time skip, because Boruto didn't even waver in this prophecy.
Exactly. But no, I agree with Trippy. Now that we're 2.5 hours deep into this podcast, we should probably get past like the intro stuff and get to the main topic now.
Yeah, we have 15 minutes to speedrun this.
With the 15 minutes left.
Maybe a little longer, but I gotta start getting ready to go.
If you wanted, I guess we could split it into 2 different streams. Like Mello could obviously keep streaming, but like I could make a thumbnail right now, and then like we could have this whole first stream for like the narrative stuff, and then the second stream could be like a power scale thing.
Yeah, we can use the I
think
guess
the
we should use the power scaling thumbnail we already made for the second stream, and we can retroactively change the thumbnail for the first one.
Okay.
I think we could probably knock it out really quick. I'm not sure how long it's going to take. I mean, I think
I'm just gonna say right now, with me and Oodie on the stream, it's gonna take a while.
Yeah, they like to.
Yeah, I did also want to confirm with Mello that he's fine with continuing rather than ending at like 15 minutes from now. But if you want to end, then that's completely fine as well.
yeah, let's maybe try to do it in 15 minutes and then see where we are.
Okay.
You could probably do like 25 minutes. Should be fine. So.
Yeah, it should be fine.
Did you want to start?
I mean, you can present whatever.
Either one of you. I
Okay,
guess
it
you
was
guys should start by
your
just
topic, so I figured you'd want to
discussing
start.
what you've said.
But generally,
before we-
generally, a lot of people in the Naruto community, the whole Naruto space, they tend to, in my opinion, the majority tend to believe that the Boruto characters tend to be stronger than the Naruto characters. And a lot of people have problem for this because there's not much of an explanation, people like to say. It's like not explained on screen or whatever. It just seems to be the case, which a lot of people have a problem with, because why is that? Why is Boruto seemingly stronger than like some of the war art characters? So because this is a general sentiment in the community, Mello's trying to get like to the bottom of this. He's making a whole video about it. So he's trying to compare specifically the characters of like adult Naruto. So like when Naruto was fighting Ishiki, compared to teen Naruto. So like the end of the war arc when Naruto was fighting Kaguya. So Mello is more so taking an agnostic stance on this, but he doesn't believe that there actually is a difference in power here between like Shippuden versus Boruto. He thinks the sentiment is wrong, and that even as far as Kaguya specifically would beat Ishiki specifically, because that's how you would compare the two Narutos in this case. But I'll let you say some words from there. Yeah.
Oh no, really quick. It's not a matter of being stronger or not. It's just how are you defining that strength, or even how are you measuring it to the point where it becomes significant in analysis is more so how I would say it. But yeah.
Yeah, so it's more like quantifying it, which we can't do. So even if you want to say Naruto got stronger, it might not make a difference in this case.
Yeah. Because that's why I like to deal more so in like percentages. Not percentages, but just plus and minus. Like it's an addition to, but I can't really measure what it does. So I'm not really sure how I can use it in that instance. Because if you say a character is like stronger, I think people, depending on like what position they're trying to argue for, obviously I would imagine for the character they're saying is stronger, then they seem to upscale them without any like real evidence to support that. To where I think if you can't define or measure the difference, then I can just simply downscale it and you won't be able to contend with that. So then it doesn't really get us anywhere substantial.
Yeah. So really quickly before we start this conversation, I'm just curious what you think like the general consensus is in the Naruto community. It's like the totality, the average of both like hardcore fans of Naruto and like casual fans of Naruto. Obviously both Naruto and Boruto, because only those fans would have knowledge. But do you think like your side is like a hot take? Do you think the general sentiment should be on your side, or do you think like, oh, this is a hot take, this is like an uphill battle that I'm having to fight by saying this?
Yeah, I think it's more so the minority opinion rather than the majority. Yeah.
Okay. Right, because like I was just thinking like, well, if Naruto Top 99 just so happened to have a poll, oh, who's the strongest character in Naruto, or like who's the strongest villain?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be adult Naruto that wins that. And just for clarity's sake, like you say, it was more so Kaguya Ishiki more than Naruto and Teen Naruto. But yeah, just wanted to specify that.
Yeah. Well, Kaguya and Ishiki is just like the way to get to adult Naruto versus teen Naruto, which is like the whole. I figure that's your like video right there. It's like the adults versus the teens in this case.
I think that's gonna be maybe a bulk of it. Yeah. So I'm interested in your takes, so I can maybe translate that over to my my video.
Yeah. So before like me and Mello give our sides, because we've talked on this ad nauseum at this point. Mello and Trippy, we haven't heard you guys at all. So before we like even start to influence you, I'm kind of curious what you two have to say on this.
Can you ask me a more specific question?
Who do you think is stronger, adult Naruto or teen Naruto? I think that's
Yeah, is the question is which Naruto is stronger?
Is we talking?
yeah. Kamui is talking.
Oh.
You not hear him again?
No.
Oh,
Hello.
hello. You hear us?
Hello?
I think
I hear Trippy and Mel. Yeah.
Go ahead.
hello. Am I lacking?
Hello?
What?
Do you hear us?
Yeah,
You
everyone.
good? Mello?
Okay.
I don't think Mello can hear us.
Yeah, I can hear guys.
Oh, okay.
I
Okay.
can hear you. So I think they're asking you a question, Oodie, or is Oodie
Yes, I
asking
can hear you,
a question?
Dux. At least I can.
What's
Yeah.
up?
Oh, wait, Oodie.
Yeah, I'm-
What is
so
the
Trippy
specific
and
question we are
Kamui.
answering?
So Trippy Kamui, who do you think is stronger, like adult Naruto or teen Naruto? Like if
Okay.
they were to fight, or like even Ishiki or Kaguya. Like, do you think Boruto characters in general are stronger?
Well, those are two different questions.
I don't know about in general, but I think adult Naruto is probably stronger than teen Naruto.
I mean, yes, that is what is
Okay,
narratively implied. You can get into
Narratively.
power scaling arguments for teen, but like the overarching narrative is that like these guys are stronger as adults.
Okay, before we get into your reasoning of why outside of the narrative, I'm curious, Mello. So something Sauron said the other day in your stream was the series is trying to make the audience think that adult Naruto is stronger. Would you at least agree with that?
I agree
From
with
the
that, yeah.
promotional material and like the data books, promotional material, all this other things. The series, regardless if you think it's well written or not, or if it's displayed in the series, the writers themselves want you to think adult Naruto is stronger. I would believe so.
I definitely believe that personally.
Yeah, so I would just ask, in what ways is that manifesting itself? Like, you said like promotional material or whatever. I would just have to look at the ways in which you're saying, or whoever is saying the series is trying to make it appear that one character is superior over the other one, and then also, again, superior and just superior in and of itself, or better or stronger. I don't think really gets anywhere if you can't like measure it. For me, that's a really important thing to do.
Okay.
That's why what you just said is precisely why I said what I said in my answer, that the story wants us, like it's narratively implied, the story wants us to take it that adult Naruto and Sasuke are stronger. However, you can make power scaling arguments, or like, you know, hacks ability accounts and stuff like that to make an argument that teens are stronger. But like if you were just to take the words in the story, the implications you feel like they're wanting you to get, it seems like they want us to think adults are stronger. That's basically how I would.
What words in particular?
Yeah, like what specifically are you referring to?
So the most obvious, I mean, I would have to reread everything to give everything, but the most obvious thing is that they give you the impression like, hey, okay, so we'll start Naruto and Sasuke versus Kaguya. Neither of them are individually stronger than her, clearly. And even together as a pair, they couldn't actually defeat her. It was only the totality of Team 7, like, you know, Kakashi gets involved, Sakura even helps out, that they eventually stop Kaguya.
Sorry, I don't mean to well, I just want to ask kind of a clarifying question. So when you say like the series is like there are words like saying this, do you mean it's like an implication, something that you're like arriving at based upon like induction, or is this like a deductive thing? Like they specifically are stating a thing.
I don't remember if they ever say specifically we're stronger, but it's more so like you look at like how they defeat Kaguya as a Team 7 thing, and then they talk about Kaguya being afraid of Momoshiki and Kinshiki as if like she cannot defeat them on their own. Like this is the threat beyond Kaguya that Sasuke talks about. But then adult Naruto and Sasuke, not even full power, completely destroy this dude.
Afraid is
no, you can say like, hey, he's not actually stronger. They're just wrong. That's fine. You can make that argument. But like it's like I said, the writers are trying to tell us like, hey, this is a threat beyond Kaguya. But Naruto and Sasuke, they're so strong that they can beat him with ease. It's a simple example.
But how is it a threat beyond Kaguya? Like, how are they?
This is you can question it.
says-
Like he's saying, there's a threat beyond Kaguya.
I don't think he says
and there
beyond.
are-
I think he just says like it. Like he's around the same level as Kaguya at least. They say like Kaguya.
Well,
level
at least in
threat or
Naruto,
something like that.
Naruto Gaiden, in the flashback to that conversation, they say threat beyond Kaguya.
Oh, okay.
So is the
But even if it was equal, the point would be like you look at how they fight them.
Well,
So
yeah,
then
they
yes,
just
like
look
if
stronger.
you can start to question. You can definitely question, hey, is Sasuke wrong? Is Kage just being paranoid? And this is where I said you can start to power scale it, make arguments off of what we see there. But my point about the story wanting us to think it is, well, they want us to believe Sasuke's right, probably. Like, they want us to think Momoshiki is a greater threat, but Naruto and Sasuke can beat their asses.
Do you think if a character, because obviously if a character says it, that's what the writer wanted them to say, right? Do you think if a character says something in the series that makes it inherently true?
No, but what I'm saying is that the story wants us like Saran's saying is like I can't remember word for what Oodie said. The story wants us to think Momoshiki is a greater threat. Like that's what's implied. Like they're trying to make us think this is a greater threat. And I remember hearing, I don't know if it even true, that Kishimoto, but I remember hearing about an interview with Kishimoto that half the thing was he just wanted to show off how strong Naruto and Sasuke became as adults. And that's why he beat Momoshiki's ass up in the movie. I don't even know if this is true, but I remember hearing that there was an interview that said that, which would just coincide with that sentiment.
Yeah, like that statement, how strong they became as adults doesn't get them over their teenage versions, though.
No,
it's
it doesn't
how strong
directly.
they became as.
But
as
like,
adults.
it's kind of like an
Like
implication.
they could literally be the exact same power, but just as adults. He just wants to display that.
I mean, they could, but that would be a weird statement to say. Like, oh, I want to show off how strong they became when they didn't become stronger than they were. It would be kind
Not
of weird.
necessarily. It genuinely could just be they're adults now. They just want to kind of demonstrate like their power as adults. Like it doesn't need to be like a
say
distinction
that, but that's
between
not
the
the
two versions.
first interpretation I'd come to. Like,
That's
I
fair.
don't know if that statement's true. I just remember hearing it.
Yeah. It's just our opinions, but yeah.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
that's what, yeah. Continue, please.
Yeah. Sorry. The point though wasn't necessarily that I'd more so like to just hear both of your power scaling arguments before I say too much in that regard, because I haven't thought about this.
Mello
forever.
and I
It's
know each
more so-
other's takes. Before we influence you guys, Kamui, we got your idea. Trippy, do you have anything specific from memory?
Well, I was gonna use pretty much the same thing that Kamui did. That Momoshiki
Okay,
is
so
like
it's-
at around, maybe above, maybe below Kaguya, and then Naruto and Sasuke at like around half of their full power or whatever were able to fight him pretty evenly.
I wouldn't say that they were as low as 50% power.
No,
I definitely
no.
disagree with that. But like
Yeah,
the point
but,
is, they
like,
weren't 100%. You know,
That's
you
a
can definitely say they're
common
not
thing people
peak.
say though.
Yeah,
But do you think
but the point, even if
when
they
they
were
fight-
100%,
yeah, like
Sorry,
what do you think what do you think that other 50% of like Kurama, I suppose that's what you guys are referencing, or maybe what was lost in dimensional travel for Sasuke, what do you think that will actually add on to like the actual, like what they would have been
personally,
able to do in battle?
I think that argument about them being nerfed is mostly a bunch of bullshit, because I think it mostly just adds to how long they could have fought at that level, because they don't necessarily, they use their full power Majestic Attire Susanoo. Like they go to their peak thing, Majestic Attire Susanoo. That's like their strongest form together as a team. They go to that, but then they come out of it like immediately. They don't go back into it. I think the most it really would have amounted to is that they could fight at that level for longer than they did, which they didn't need to anyway. I don't think it actually changes what they would have accomplished whatsoever. Like, I don't think it means much of anything. If they were you put them in the Jigen fight, I think it's pretty much the same thing that's going to happen, because Jigen knocked them out of their avatars immediately anyway. Like, I think that's all that would have changed, essentially. If they needed to fight for longer, they wouldn't have been able to fight for as long as they could have at peak chakras. I think it's more of a stamina thing, which didn't matter. Personally, anyway.
Yeah, I agree.
That
I
makes
think it's more
sense.
stamina and output. So that's what I was. You got. I think one of you brought it up. I just wanted to kind of get your take on it, but yeah. Please continue.
Like, so a lot of people like to gas that shit up. I'm like, bro, I'm sorry. Like to downscale Momoshiki. I'm like, I'm sorry, guys. Like, Naruto really wasn't like as nerfed as you acting like. It's really was just a stamina thing more than anything else.
Yeah, I think so.
That makes the most sense. I feel like too.
Did you guys have any other takes or?
Not really. Off the top of
ATG
my
say
head.
Kamui, that's not true. ATG elaborate. Also, here's another way to look at it for anyone who's curious. Okay, so if you want to really scale this shit, okay, so Naruto was like getting his ass beat. Naruto and Sasuke got their ass beaten by Rinnegan, One-Eye Rinnegan Madara, okay? And then Madara goes on to absorb an entire 10 tails, okay? Then Naruto gets 6 past Sage Mode. He doesn't even use his KCM or anything. He just base 6 past Sage Mode is beating Madara's ass, okay? So 6 past Sage Mode on its own is like 10 tails amp plus more, if anything. Kurama, half of Kurama is nowhere near the 10 tails. So I'm considering overall what Naruto is capable of, this 50% of Kurama isn't like 50% of Naruto's strength. It's like 10% maybe. It's really not a big deal. And it all just might have been stamina related anyway. So there's more than one way to look at this. Okay, Itachi Kisame literally said, when you're on a low percent of your chakra, you can't use your strength or chakra the same as when you're at full power. I'll say it. Yeah, dude, 30% of Kisame's chakra is not the same as Naruto losing 50% of Kurama. Kisame lost 70% of all his power. Naruto did not lose 50% of all his power. He lost 50% of Kurama, which sick past stage mode on its own is way better than.
Did they ever say it was actually 50% of Kurama?
No, Momoshiki in one of the 3 continuities says like, this is taking so long. We're only like halfway done.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's where that comes from. I need to change headphones. My headphones are dying. Maybe I should just use my actual mic.
So Oodie, I guess maybe just for the streamer or whoever is new, can you state your position, please? And honestly, because I don't really remember. But yeah.
Okay. My position is similar to them. I think Naruto and Sasuke are stronger. Just because they've trained basically from the end of Shippuden to current day Boruto. But then obviously that's not enough. I mean, obviously, if you train, you're stronger, but like how much stronger? Well, that depends on what you're training for and like, do you accomplish your goal? So because they're rusty in Boruto, I think they've stopped training at that point. Because if you're rusty, that would imply that you're weaker than your peak. So when was their peak? Was it end of Shippuden or was it after Shippuden? If you're training, then it has to be after Shippuden, in my opinion.
So what makes you think they're training?
I think they're training for the threat greater than Kaguya that Sasuke believes is a threat.
I think at least Sasuke was training.
I mean, the Kage made some leaps and bounds in power. So, I mean...
That's true.
Yeah, there's an argument. I think I saw some scans where Sasuke says that he'll protect the peace. Then I think I asked, well, does that necessarily mean that Naruto would know about this? Sasuke's always gone. And then I think somebody said, well, they communicate. Something like that.
Yeah, Mello, can you find that specifically from the cloud, and I'll give my interpretation of it? Because I know someone sent the image. I don't remember who or when they sent it. But if you're able to find it, that'd be great.
There's no way. It was so far up, bro. Like,
yeah. So I forget exactly what they say, but it's in one of the novels. I think Sasuke Shinden, where Sasuke's talking about the Otsutsuki threat greater than Kaguya, or like the White Zetsu army. Anyways, he says in the novel, he monologues that he alone will stop the threat. So then you could argue, what does this mean? What is your interpretation based off this? So there's a few different interpretations that I can think of. The first interpretation is like the most direct, obvious, that Sasuke alone will be able to just beat up the threat greater than Kaguya. So like Naruto in that instance, it's not implied that he even knows. Like Sasuke doesn't have to tell Naruto because Sasuke alone is going to defeat them, if you want to take it like literally at least. But this also tells us that Sasuke should be strong enough to be able to defeat a threat greater than Kaguya, implying that at the very minimum, Sasuke should be stronger than Kaguya, assuming Sasuke is confident in defeating a threat stronger than Kaguya. This would just be based on Sasuke's thoughts rather than what we see in universe. But we also see that Naruto is relative to Sasuke in Boruto. So if Sasuke does think he's stronger, and then we see Naruto's relative to Sasuke, the implication would be that Naruto is equally stronger as well. So that's
Okay.
one interpretation. There's another interpretation that he alone will.
Sorry, Oodie.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to remember my points if we run down
No,
all
you're
the
good, you're good.
possible. Yeah. So like which one do you think it is?
What do you mean? Which one? Do
Yeah,
I think it is?
like out of all like the interpretations you have in front of you, which one are you picking?
My interpretation is that it's not that he doesn't tell Naruto, it's that Sasuke believes that he is strong enough to defeat a threat that would threaten Kaguya.
So I have to admit, I was trying to change my headphones and I ran into a problem, which is that my other headphones are also dead. And for like 2 minutes, I didn't hear anything that was said. So,
Basically, to sum it up for you,
I
Kamui,
apologize.
very briefly, Sasuke believes that he can defeat a threat greater than Kaguya. So the obvious implication being, well, Sasuke should know how strong Kaguya is. He saw Kaguya fight. He saw Kaguya used all her abilities. So Sasuke knows about how strong Kaguya is. So if Sasuke believes he can defeat a threat to Kaguya, he believes that he should, obviously, the implication there being that he should be able to defeat Kaguya is what he would
doesn't
believe.
that statement come from a novel? Just out of
Yes.
curiosity. Okay, that's what I thought.
Okay.
Okay, now you can continue.
So just so I can remember where we are, Sasuke learns about what he believes is a threat stronger than Kaguya, and that is motivation enough that you believe for him to have been training for 15 years.
I believe so, yeah. Because if he wasn't able to defeat Kaguya by himself, Kaguya was a threat to the world. So if there's a threat greater than Kaguya that Sasuke is aware of, he knows that that threat should be able to destroy the world if he doesn't train. So because Sasuke has a need or want to protect the world, especially considering he has a daughter, etc., and to atone for his sins, he wants to protect the world. So he wants to defeat the threat that would be greater than Kaguya. So he would train to be able to do that.
We also see him
is it
learn how
actually
to
greater than
dimension
Kaguya?
travel for the purpose of learning more about this threat. So he's obviously putting in some work.
Yeah, is it actually a threat greater than Kaguya? Is that what's said?
Yes,
That's what
let me look
Sasuke
for it.
believes.
Yeah, in Naruto
Okay, I just want to
Gaiden.
get the wording correctly.
Let me try to find this for you.
Yeah,
I
so
think
it's not like Sasuke finds a
re-referenced again
scroll
in
where
Boruto, but I
Kaguya
know
writes the threat.
specifically it comes from Naruto Gaiden.
So I know,
It's like
Mello, we
this-
were talking about this. So going back to how does Sasuke even know? Because in the manga,
sorry. I don't think we need to go down that route. I think we're like on a time limit, so I'm just trying to like condense everything really quickly. And I think I'll just I'll grant you that he knows. That's fine. So how are we defining greater? Is this a power thing, or is this like a greater threat in terms of what they can present to their piece that they've established?
if
don't know if that's ever
Kaguya is
really
going
said.
to rule over Earth with the white Zetsu army, the obvious term being army there, like an imperial army in that case. So she's not willing to compromise or anything. So if it's a threat to Kaguya and Kaguya is unwilling to compromise, then it has to be in reference to power.
Not necessarily, because the white
What other
Zetsu aren't very
interpretation?
powerful. I'm not really sure what the how they're bridging the gap in power. It seems like there's some utility that they serve that wasn't really specified because they never really got to it in the story.
We
But-
never
but-
saw their potential from Kaguya.
Sure, but that also means that we can't just apply some kind of heightened potential. We don't know either way. But my whole thing with like the whole greater threat thing. So one, there's a lot that I call into question for Sasuke, and honestly, this line of argumentation is not even where I want to go down, but I just think it's interesting, so I'm just kind of shooting off the top. So when we see like a threat greater, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're stronger than her. It just means like the thing that they can, the threat that they can employ right? Could it be done in a way that's greater than her? It could be a intelligence thing to where she has the power, but she stupidly shifts dimensions when she doesn't need to. She makes dumb moves, so she's stronger, right? But she intellectually she is inferior, so they may be stronger, or rather they may be smarter, right? So they can employ what they have at their disposal in the way that she didn't, thus making them a better threat, something of the sort. I don't necessarily believe that for reasons, but more so. Greater is an interesting word. It's more so what I kind of want to draw attention to, but yeah. So
I was bringing up to you, why do you think Kaguya is seemingly stupid? My interpretation was it was more of like the 10 tails. She's preoccupied with trying to control that, like Jubito was at first. That's why when she becomes stronger, exponentially stronger later on, I would believe that's because she has more control over the 10 tails at that time.
I think I think it's interesting to try to find a rationale for that, but I just think this is the way she was written. I would be interested in trying to find like an inverse explanation, but just for time restraints purposes. So my thing is, I think Sasuke, specifically, if you want to contribute that to Naruto, I think that's what you said. Them wanting to train because they're trying to prepare for an Otsutsuki threat. For me, I think this speaks toward the mindset, right? The mindset is a threat is coming, so therefore we need to prepare, right? A preparedness mindset. The preparedness is a word I can't remember. So to me, this seems to be odd, right? Because the series has, like you mentioned earlier, a character like a Naruto and a Sasuke being referred to as rusty, right? Or you have instances where Naruto is calling into question whether or not Kurama's in shape. And then Kurama's like, well, that's my line, right? So they both seem to not think the other has been keeping in shape or in form adequate, right? So for me, it's like, why on one hand would you think this threat is so powerful to the extent where you need to train for 15 years, we assume, right? And then on the other hand, at any point before that threat manifests itself, stop to the point where you allow yourself to get rusty and out of shape. It seems like this is a contradiction here.
I think that's being content. I mean, it comes down to being content with where they're at. Hypothetically, let's just say, I'm going to make up numbers here. Let's just say Naruto's 33 when Momoshiki invades. It's something around that. I don't know the number, but let's just go with it. And let's just say when he got to age 30, he determined Naruto or Sasuke decided, you know what, I'm just as strong as Kaguya, and then got content with it. And then for 3 years, just kind of got lazy. But then they saw all the Shin stuff, and they're like, you know what, actually, we need to step up our game. And then they train again so that they can surpass where they were before. Again, making up ages there for the sake of this. But like, they could have become content with the idea of, oh, I'm stronger than Kaguya now. I don't need to worry about it. But then they become rusty enough that it's like, you know what, that's probably not smart. We should train again and not get rusty.
See, this is the odd thing for me though, because more so that the thing I want to kind of focus in so more so than anything is the mindset. I think that's super important. The mindset to train for what you guys are assuming is like 15 years or so. The mindset is very important to me. So the fact that at any point, because based upon what you're saying, there was a moment where they must have felt like the threat wasn't even of worth or of anything because they let themselves get out of shape, or at least in Naruto and Kurama's case, they let themselves get out of shape. That statement even implies that Kurama and Naruto don't even train together. They don't even know, like, they don't even know what, they don't even have an accurate measure of each other, the point where they're calling to question each other's conditioning. And the same thing goes for Sasuke as well. I just think there's a little bit of a contradiction there. Why, again, on one hand, would you train for this threat for 15 years? That seems important to me. Your way of life, your peace, you want to, and then you get kids and you're raising kids. If anything, that's a bigger motivator. As time passes on, you accumulate things, you accrue things, and that makes you even more motivated, one would imagine, to keep up. But it seems like the series is contradicting that narrative because they don't, right? So that to me is kind of odd. It's a little strange.
Definitely feel you on that sense. However, this is what I would say. For one thing, Naruto becomes too busy with paperwork as Hokage to come to his daughter's birthday. He might have just decided, been too focused on his Hokage duties. Like, that could have been the point that he stops training when he becomes Hokage.
But wait,
and becomes too consumed with that.
It seems like the Hokage duties are far more important than training for the Otsutsuki threat.
Yeah, well, I think being a good father is far more important than stamping papers, but that's what Naruto chose to do. But
Exactly.
the other thing I would say, though, is Naruto and Sasuke became cocky. They looked at Momoshiki.
Yeah, but Naruto still has to learn that answer.
Like, they thought they were those dudes. They thought no one could stop them. They saw Momoshiki, he eats Kinshiki, and especially in the movie, they're just like, let's teach him a lesson, buddy. And then they beat his ass. And then Ishiki shows up, and they're like, yeah, you just made a bad choice, bro. You brought us to a dimension where we can go all out. You're going to get your ass whooped. And then that's when they finally got the wake-up call that, like, you know what? They're actually not the peak of the world. But, like, they thought they were, and that would be a reason to get a little bit relaxed with your training. Because if you think you're the top dog, I mean, reality is you think you're the top dog. You see less reason to train because you think that you're stronger than them anyway. So I could see that being a reason.
Yeah. So I think maybe with this, what we can't do is prove anything. We can't like use like deductive reasoning. We have to like make assumptions. I think what we're trying to do is say what's the most like reasonable conclusion to arrive at based upon what we have to work with, right? I think everyone here agrees with that more so than not. So for me, if the assumption is that this is a threat that's so significant, so important to protect their way of life, and not only their way of life at that moment, but their way of life as time would have progressed, kids, era of peace, and so forth. Number one, why ever get rusty? And then number two, as stated, there's less shinobi now being what Shikamaru told Naruto. There's less shinobi now than there were then. Well, why would you limit your military capabilities? It just seems like to me the series is painting a different picture. On one hand, you have people, Oodie or anyone else, saying that they're preparing for this great threat. It's so important that they it spans over a decade plus. And then the series is saying, well, no, not really. Their military force has diminished to the point where there's not a lot of shinobi, right? So their power has diminished. Naruto has allowed himself to get rusty to where he's prioritizing his job and paperwork over his own kids, but more importantly, training. Naruto doesn't train with Kurama to the point where they're calling into question one another's conditioning. Sasuke has gotten rusty, right? He has added on things via his dimension, his ability to work between dimensions, right? But that is a subtraction by addition. That ability seems to hurt him more than help him, right? He adds on like an ice blade thing. Sure, that's a plus, but that's not getting you anywhere in terms of like exponentially stronger than his teenage version. And the same thing goes with Naruto. If it's like, okay, well, what have they been doing in terms of their training that gets them exponentially stronger? Well, can you point to something? Because they do the exact same things as adults that they did as teenagers. So where's the growth? A mud wall, maybe? I don't really think so. So I'm trying to figure out the narratives of the story seems to be saying one thing, and I keep hearing other things from like, people in the community. But yeah.
Real quick, can you guys hear me? I just
I'll just go in backwards order here.
Can you hear me real quick?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll go in backwards order, addressing Mello your points really quick. First of all, the mud wall thing, even if they learn new jutsu that are like insignificant, those insignificant jutsu aren't the ones they've used in their Otsutsuki fight. Naruto never used a mud wall against Momoshiki. He used like the big ball Rasengan. And the big ball Rasengan is the thing that eventually killed him. So I think that's fine for them to not train jutsu rather than to train their stats. The second thing of why lower their military force, well, Naruto had like a capitalistic world where Naruto's not in control of that. It's more the daimyo, and that daimyo is more so focused on the economics. The village economics are so poor that apparently defeating or like blowing up a door is like a big deal now. So I don't think Naruto has control over that. Go ahead.
Real quick, just to like address that point. Everyone was caught in the infinite Tsukuyomi, and their entire way of life was almost like gone. Like, I'm pretty sure if this Otsutsuki threat that Sasuke suspects is beyond Kaguya, it wouldn't take very much convincing for them to want to prepare for that as much as possible.
Well, there's two things on that. The first is specifically in the scan that me and Neji both sent, is that like the Kage didn't want. They're like, how are we supposed to tell all the people whose wounds just healed from the last war? Oh, now there's an even greater threat. Like, they didn't want to tell them about this, for one thing. Now, you can argue whether it was a good idea or not, but they didn't tell them this because they were worried about how they would react. The other thing, though, is this is more so implied with like Kakashi and novels and stuff, I think. But they were trying to move to a world where ninja weren't really needed because wars between the ninja villages were drastically reduced. They weren't having those war problems. So the reason why the military was cut is because they're trying to get rid of ninja, essentially. Mm-hmm. Of course, in the case of like the leaders, they're worried, like the Kage, Naruto, and Sasuke, they're specifically worried about like this threat beyond Kaguya that they may have become complacent about later on. But regardless, they're training for it, but the rest of the world isn't. They don't even know about it.
But we
and
also
because
know
they're trying to keep it a secret.
The daimyos are incompetent. We know that they're stubborn, just like the elders were of Konoha. So they're not going to change their mind. We've seen that they haven't changed their mind on other things regarding Shinobi because they don't really care about Shinobi.
They're more worried about money.
So, yeah.
Okay, so I think this all kind of points to what I'm saying is that if they didn't want to tell the people for whatever reason, they're fearful or they'll have fear or whatever the case may be, that's still them weakening their military prowess, right? The fact that they even entered into an era of peace when they suspected that the peace wouldn't last, right, would suggest to me that they're weakening their military prowess. It seems like there's two things happening, right? You have this greater...
Well, because the reason the peace thing, it's because the peace that the wars that ended and the peace that was created was between the ninja villages. The stuff with the Otsutsuki doesn't influence whether the Sand Village now hates the Cloud Village. Like, that's a matter of like, is the world just going to blow up? You know, it's like a different peace.
Are we operating under the assumption that the Otsutsuki are going to discriminate against village? Like, they're only going to attack Konoha and not the Sand Village?
Well, technically they are, because they're only looking for the tail beasts, really Naruto in particular, in the case of Mabushiki and Ginshiki. But no, I mean, the point is they're going to destroy the whole planet.
But like
with the divine tree.
Yeah, Urashiki goes to the sand. So like, the Urashiki goes to like the sand.
For the Chicago thing, he's going to go for the tail beasts. Right, it's the only thing they're targeting.
It's not like isolated to like Konoha. So my whole thing is like, I'm pretty sure when the Otsutsuki come down, the threat that they want to spend 15 years to prepare for, it's going to be a preparation in terms of the collective. They're not going to like segment themselves. They're going to be a united front in the same way that they were in the fourth grade ninja war. This will be the most optimal solution, right? And
that gets into whether or not you agree with their actions. But essentially, you disagree. You think that they should have been having everyone trained for the Otsutsuki, which is definitely a fine take. I think that makes sense. But they had a reason why they didn't want to do that, though, is the point.
Yeah, but I don't think the reason is sufficient enough if we're operating under the assumption that the motivator for them training for 15 plus years is that the Otsutsuki threat was coming. So what do they do in totality? Not just Naruto and Sasuke. They allow themselves to get rusty. Naruto doesn't train with Kurama. Naruto prioritizes his paperwork type job over actually preparing. The new generation knows nothing about the Otsutsuki. They don't even know about Kurama. They don't train. They're complacent. There's less shinobi. Their military force is completely diminished, whether or not the daimyos agree to this. And I think there's some episodes in Boruto where we kind of get a look at one of them. He seems pretty interesting to me, competent. But that aside, regardless of if they agree or not, make them agree. This is a threat beyond Kaguya. This is a planetary level threat beyond Kaguya, who could destroy space-time. I just think the excuses for them not doing what one would imagine they should do suggests to me that the thing that you're implying that they did, which is train for 15 years for this threat, never happened. The series is literally contradicting at every point.
I would agree with you in the sense that, like, I do think that it probably would be smart to have everyone training for this threat, just in case. That said, the perspective that Naruto and the Kage could have had is just that they'll handle it. They'll be the ones to deal with it. Naruto and Sasuke thought they could beat everyone at the end of the day.
Naruto gives his opinion on
just had that mindset.
Naruto Naruto knows the new Jin can't. So also Naruto knows that like the third Raikage fought 10,000 shinobi and didn't die. So that tells me that power absolutely plays a role. It's not in numbers. It's absolutely in powers. Even the 100,000 White Zetsu army meant absolutely nothing because they weren't strong, quote unquote. So numbers mean nothing. So if you train them, it's just like there's no point. It really has to do with the strongest people if they are stronger than the opposing side. So also we know that the Otsutsuki are cocky. So we see this with Kaguya at the very minimum. So we see that Kaguya wants to steal her chakra back when she realizes she can't. She tries to kill Naruto and Sasuke. So similarly, we see Momoshiki go straight for like the strongest tail beast. He goes for the 8 tails, then the 9 tails. So they know that inevitably the Otsutsuki will target them specifically first. At the very least, they should know, or at least that would be one assumption they might have. Beyond that, going to your first point now of why were Naruto and Sasuke even rusty in the first place?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. My ADHD is going to make me forget this point if I don't mention it because you say going beyond that. So I just want to stick with this real quick. So for me, like one utility I think makes sense if they train up their shinobi, right? Increasing their military prowess is that Kaguya clearly had White Zetsu in preparation for this threat, right? We all agree? So we understand, like, we kind of got a scale about where the White Zetsu were. It seems like, just if you didn't know the series, she was preparing for maybe an army. She had a lot of resources at her disposal at that particular point, right? So it's like, why does she have all those White Zetsu, right? So maybe quantity matters as much as quality, right? We want our quantity to be of quality as well, right? But Kaguya was preparing in a very specific way, right? So maybe that means something. So maybe we can at least take that into consideration. I think that makes sense to me.
I definitely would say, like, yeah, like the quantity, it's not, or I mean, there's two ways I would look at this. In terms of having everyone train, there's two aspects. One is just, this is the part I agree most with, is just that to protect themselves, you know, if a ninja is absolute dog shit and is just going to get killed because the freaking arena roof breaks, you know, we should probably let them train to be strong enough to at least dodge it. You know what I mean? Just to protect themselves as best they can. I definitely think that's a smart thing to do. The other aspect would just be like, it's not going to hurt them to have extra numbers unless Naruto has to save everyone. But if they're going into the battle, I guess that's actually another thing that you could say. In the case of White Zetsu, Kaguya doesn't give a damn shit about that one White Guru versus the other White Zetsu. It's just their pods. Whereas in Naruto's case, he might be worried that the more people drag into it, the more he's going to want to protect, which could hold him back. I guess either way that's going to happen, though, to be honest. So
Boruto,
that's kind of a shitty point.
The Zetsu are naturally able to evolve, so Kaguya could probably influence that to make them evolve stronger, but I have no basis for that. I just know that the Zetsu have the potential to get significantly stronger.
But I mean, because when they copy chakra, at least, like, it's a hypothetical thing. Using Zetsu and Kisame, he technically got some of Kisame's power. Like, he was going to use a water-style jutsu before A and B chopped his head off. Hypothetically, if Zetsu stole some of Kinshiki's chakra, he's probably not going to be as strong as Kinshiki. However, it is possible that they would get stronger and get some weak derivation of Kinshiki's power. In that hypothetical case, that could be part of what she's going for. The other aspect of it, though, is really just as simple as, like Zetsu says, regular humans at that time suck dog shit. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to make them better. The White Zetsu are better than a civilian. And
if
they're useless pods she can throw out.
Quantity mattered as much, Momoshiki would have no purpose of absorbing Kinshiki because Momoshiki plus Kinshiki would be just as strong as Momoshiki fused. But also there's other instances of quantity not really mattering in Naruto, such as Sasuke tells Naruto in their first fight when Naruto does shadow clones, 10 times 0 is still 0. So also other instances would include Edo Madara versus the Shinobi Alliance when Madara first is revived, as well as the Shinobi Alliance versus the Ten Tails, both twice. The first time when they first arrive, they try and seal the Ten Tails. It just doesn't work at all. The second time, the Ten Tails tries to do a Ten Tails blast. Shikamaru and like everyone, you know, they tell the whole alliance to do a earth mud wall. They all do it and it just doesn't work. They need Minato to teleport it away. So we've never seen quantity succeed. We've only seen it fail.
So what I will say about that, though, is yes, okay, the answer lies in the middle here. If you take a bunch of useless fodder and throw them against Kinshiki, no, it's not going to matter the same way as it did with Madara. But if they're of a decent enough quality, which is on the other end, it does matter. As long as the collective quantity can make a new quality, a good example would be Naruto plus Sasuke. Naruto on his own was losing to Momoshiki's golem. Momoshiki literally was choking him out in the anime and manga. But then collectively with Sasuke, they defeated. So this level, I mean, they need to be of enough quality plus quantity. If the quantity, like, if 10 times 0 is still 0, if everyone's a 0, yeah, they're still useless. But if they could hypothetically train to a 10, so that 10 times 10 is 100, then they could be of value. So I kind of see both ends of this here. So realistically, Konohamaru's friends Udon and Moegi, I don't care how much they train, they're probably not going to be taking on Momoshiki. I'm just going to keep it real. They're not that strong.
So,
However, I do get both aspects of this.
Yeah, so I think, so here's the thing. I have 2 points here. Number one,
I don't mean to interrupt, but I have to leave. And I have to.
We can switch streams, Oodie. We'll keep talking. Trippy, go do your night fishing or whatever.
Yeah, I'm gonna go meet up with someone, and yeah, I gotta go. So I gotta end the stream.
Trippy,
That's fine.
Yeah, Trippy's gonna end stream. I'll just because I already made a thumbnail, so I'll just make another stream, and it doesn't have to be too long. If you have to go soon. Okay, we'll just finish the discussion.
If Mela has to go, we can always just keep talking. Attack on Titan. So we'll just do with the flow.